much. He was in the war. He was in maybe a couple wars. I think maybe I want to say possibly the Korean War. He's got some issues with some Asians. I do know that. Doesn't make him a bad person. They had issues with him as well, I'm sure, during the war. So, but he don't do much. He likes to put on mittens or gloves, and he likes to take them off. So that's one of his hobbies these days. A couple times he would break out of the house and go get himself a little can of liquor or can of beer. And he would have that somewhere being sneaky, and my mother would have to go find him. So that's kind of what he's up to, and he have Alzheimer's. So it was nice to speak to my mother and just make sure she was okay. She enjoyed her flowers, and the flowers came with some caramels, different, fancy brown candies, but nice ones that melt in your mouth and make you feel, make your whole mouth feel kind of almost naughty a little bit, salty and sweet and kind of just nasty a little, but also good and beautiful. So she enjoyed those, I'm pretty sure. And we had a nice time, man. I'm at the age now where it's not about holding any grudges against my mother. It's about finding solutions if I do have issues. We're more and more a little bit able to talk about things. And it's just about kind of just letting her know that I love her, I feel like when I think about it, and I'm sorry, welcome to this past weekend, man. I'm just talking out of the blue, I hear, I want to thank you guys for joining me. I hope your Mother's Days were beautiful. I hope I saw a lot of pictures on Instagram of people's mothers. I liked as many as I could. And it was, but I spoke to my mom and I just want her to be happy. That's all I want. When I was young, I thought I was a daddy's boy, or a dad's boy, whatever it's called. I can't remember. Daddy's boy sounds almost like, somebody that's, being hired as like a male escort or something, maybe out in Scottsdale or in Palm Springs. So I'm not that. I just thought my dad wasn't around, so I thought I was I just wanted to be that, because when you're young, you want to be whatever you're not, kind of, you want to be the, you want to raise hell, you want to cause ruckus. So I thought I was a daddy's boy. But I wasn't, man. As I get older, I realize that I just want my mother to be happy. And I just, I'm like my mother in a lot of ways. Some good and some bad. But I'm more of a mama's boy. And it took me a long time to realize that. But now I'm realizing it now. But yeah, it's at a certain point you can't hold grudges anymore. If I'm still holding grudges against my mother, I'm 37 years old, and something's wrong, then it's my issue. It's not our issue anymore. It's my issue. So I have to figure out what's going on. If I am, come to terms with it and get out of it, because life is short, and our lives are short. And I just want my mother to be happy. When I think about it, we had a little bit of a tough spell over growing up, and I was pretty blessed, man. I found a bunch of different mothers that took me into their families and into their homes, and made me feel like a regular kid, and loved me and helped me out as much as possible. I got emancipated at 14, and I spent time living with friends and families, and I've just been eternally, when I really think about it, blessed by the grace that people showed me. I mean, I have been shown more joy more grace and more, I've been helped. So it's amazing to me that a mother, that they can extend beyond their own children when they have a lot of those qualities. And it's pretty fascinating. But these days, I talk to my mother and I just want her to be happy, and sometimes she just talks and I don't know what she's talking about. I just try to listen and be a quiet listener, try to be supportive. But she got some tulips. That's what I sent, and I hope she enjoyed them. I'm going to jump off that conversation right now. Or actually, I guess when I think about my mother even more, I didn't always treat my mother very good. That's one thing I realized as I get older. I wasn't a good son. I have some responsibilities as a son. I've talked about this before, but, I rejected my mother a lot of times. I wasn't like a proud son a lot of times. I was just uncomfortable, and I was just selfish. And I know I was a child, and you have a right to be selfish as a child because you have to have your needs met when you're a young child. But as you get older, you can just be being selfish. If all you're concerned about is getting your needs met, then at a certain point there's a lot of selfishness there, and I was that a lot of times, and I rejected my mother, because we didn't have any money sometimes, and I rejected her maybe because she didn't. My mother was a hard worker, still is, and she didn't take care of herself that much, or she didn't care about beauty. She didn't care about looking fancy or putting on makeup or anything, but that made me feel, like she just didn't care about putting on airs for anyone. She was a very real woman. And at the time when I was young, I guess I wanted her to put on airs. I wanted, that idea of a mom that you see. Like on the televisions, on Leave It to Beavers and stuff like that, different shows, regular shows. Roseanne, but more of a thin Roseanne. So, I rejected my mother a lot, and I feel bad about some of those things. But I'm old, but now one of the blessings I still have my mom is that I'm able to discuss those things with her and get into them. And, it's never too late to apologize. It doesn't have to be a special phone call that you make to your mom. It doesn't have to be on Mother's Day. It can be on any Monday like today. If you got something to say, just get it out of your heart and get it out of your soul and get it into your mother's ears, There's no place better for a son's concerns, I don't think, than their mother's ears. Even if she's not going to give you the response you want, I think there's just something about a son or a daughter saying something to their mother, and just putting it on them that is innately comforting to us. And I put a lot of pressure on my mom growing up. It was just her. And when you're a child like that, and it's just your mother, you naturally look to your mother for whatever your father's supposed to give you as well. And so it can give you it can put, ridiculous, unachievable desires and expectations on your mother because you are looking for a complete circle of parenting, and there's no way your mother can give it all to you because she can't be a man. She can't be, two parents. So there's all. So I have a lot of, I'll probably have some resentments or some amends to make in that category too. Once I figure out what expectations I put on my mother that I probably was supposed to put on a father, but they weren't there because that's not my mother's responsibility. That's my father's responsibility who wasn't around. But anyway, I'm not trying to bring everybody down. I started shit off bad. What the fuck, Theo? I don't know, man. We got a good episode, dude. I got the oldest wigger in the game coming in, Mr. Raja Rod. I've been a fan of this man for a long time, and I've seen him here and there, and you guys are going to be excited. We got some great calls that came in from some listeners. I want to do a special episode this week, I think, hopefully, just about, I think it's going to be about manhood and what that means. We've had a lot of calls about it, and thank you so much for calling and hitting the hotline. That number is 985-664-9503. We got people calling in about the first time they touched some crotch and sharing those experiences. And I know it's a weird thing on a Mother's After Day special to get into that, but we're going to get into that. Some of those crotch calls and take some crotch callers. So, wanna be a baller, crotch caller. So I was fascinated by that. I think because crotch and touch, boy, touching crotch when you're young, it is like a dam. It's like somebody just, it's like the first time you ever see one of those babies they could hear for the first time on those videos. It's like, this magic baby, they put headphones on this magic baby. And, a baby could see for the first time. baby gets retinas repaired for the first time. When I see that, that's what it is like. For a man, it is anyway. The first time you down there touching some, we'll say cooter, to keep things comfortable here on this Mother's Day special. We'll say cooter. The first time you're seeing some cooter, you really are touching some. It's like that first time. It's just like one of those videos on Facebook where, dog hears its owner. Dog hears its owner for the first time. Dog sees its cousin for the first time. It's like one of those, it's one of those, man. It's that magical moment where it's like this area that you can, and there's so much heat. That's what I remember about that crotch heat, bro. It was, God, it was like somebody had just put a furnace inside of, a woman's pants. It was just like, you ever get those mitten packets that keep your hands warm if you do skiing or you do outdoor work in the Kodiak or in the cold weather, or if your freezer doesn't have a door, your refrigerator doesn't have a door, and your kitchen gets really cold because they don't have it ways to close them up, and you have to use those freezer packets, And I'm sure that's probably erroneous. A lot of people don't have that. I had a friend who didn't have any freezer door or refrigerator door. Someone had stolen the doors to their appliance, many of their appliances actually, and so the cold would always be coming out, and so they'd have to wear extra shirts and stuff. But you have this. They have these hand warmers you can get, and man, it was like the first time you put your hand down by a girl's crotch. That's kind of what occurred. I felt like. But we're going to get into some of those calls, and we're going to get to our guest. We're going to get to it. I'm going to tell you what else this past weekend. Not much, man. To be honest with you, I probably had I think 16 comedy sets at the different clubs. I hung out with Howie Mandel for a little bit, and it was nice actually. Howie's always been really nice to me. He's a charming man. And we had a good time. I got to see him and his wife. She's a lovely lady. We had a nice time, man. Howie's funny, and he's got a great heart. If you ever see celebrities on TV and you don't know what some of them are like, that's fine. But you can know this about Howie Mandel. He may seem bizarre, and maybe his humor is for you or isn't for you. That's not to be judged. You can judge it. That's fine. But don't doubt that he's a nice man. He's a very nice man. He's just a good guy. What else happened, dude? I felt better. I appreciate it. I got a lot of calls from people this week, seeing how I was feeling, and I feel a little bit better. Some of that was just being off the road and being able to be at home and enjoy my environment, man. My plants were dying. I got 2 plants, and they were dying, and so it was just felt a little bit better. I took a walk today. So I'm going to drop these dates on you guys right now, and then we're going to get into our guest. He's going to be here in studio, and then we're going to get some calls, man. These are some of my favorite calls. I'm really, really excited about this. Next weekend, the 25th through 28th, I'll be at Tampa at the Side Splitters Comedy Club, and then I'll be in Pittsburgh June 1st through June 4th, okay? And then I will be at Gotham in New York City, June 23rd through June 24th in New York City, New York. They call it the same thing to piss you off right there. And then I'm in Wyoming, Illinois, and that's about an hour from the Quad Cities in Iowa. It's a small town at the Paramount Theater, and those tickets are available on theovon.com. I also have a new album that came out. It's of my early stuff. Now, if you picked up an album at my show, it might be the same material. So I'm just letting you know that if you want to check the material before you purchase it. But it's Musket Fire, The Early Years of Satire, and that's available now on iTunes. It's a lot of the stuff from the Netflix special. So it's not material that is similar. It's not the same material from the Netflix special, but it's similar material. And it's on sale now. Then I'll be, where else? I'll be at the Improv in Orlando. I think we moved those dates to July 13th through 16th. Also, you can grab 30-pound bag of hamster bones, which is still on sale, and theovon.com/store is where you can get most things, T-shirts as well. All right, we got a guest in. I'm excited for him. It's late here, guys. Honestly, it's 1 a.m. here on Pacific Standard Coastal Time. This past weekend. All right, happy to have him here today, man. Thank you so much for joining me. What I want to say, one of the realest and oldest wiggas in the game, Mr. Roger Rod. So, Roger, I got to ask, are you black or white?
I would have to say I'm white on the outside and multicolored inside.
Okay. Multicolored. And what colors are we going to see in there if we were to crack you open?
It'd crack me open, I'd probably bleed red, but a lot of me still identifies with black a lot. I do. I don't think I'm black. I don't try to act black, but I very much appreciate that culture. There's parts of it I don't like, but the major portion of it, what I love most about it, is the indomitable spirit. They refuse to be unhappy no matter how many times or ways they get fucked culturally. They always see the upside. You know,
it's interesting because I sometimes feel like, I'm like, do black people even feel bad? Like, do they even feel sad, you know? Like, because black people are always pretty upbeat or level. And sometimes and maybe I've mistooken it as that black people do they not have those feelings?
I would say, without even knowing what the statistics are, but if you looked at them, they've probably got the lowest suicide rate. I have to think so. They always find a reason to keep trying, keep fighting, something to be happy about.
Wow.
Something to see an upside with. Most positive culture. I remember when I first started playing black clubs, it was at a really low point in my life. I'd gone through a bad romance. I was more poverty-stricken than I'd ever been. My career didn't seem to be going anywhere, and I'm playing in black clubs. And I'm in these really low income neighborhoods, and I'm being as kind as I can, and seeing comics that I knew were living in cars and living in very poor conditions, and they would get on stage and say something like, I woke up today, the sun hit my face, it's a beautiful thing to be alive. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is wrong with me? That if this guy can see life that way, where did I go wrong? What's so bad about my life?
Wow.
Real positivity.
Yeah.
And you play football with them, and you really get it. They're your brothers. And the other thing I noticed on the football scene is that you would get on these 14-hour bus drives we sometimes had to take, and the white guys would all be sitting around bored, shitless, maybe reading a book, but most of the time just staring at the front seat. And the blacks are in back playing dominoes and playing spades and cards, yucking it up, laughing it up, high-fiving. They always were fucking having more fun than we were, and I started hanging around with them.
Yeah. Yeah, why do black people have more fun than white people? Because like the most fun sometimes white people, it seemed like white people would be like, you know, like, ooh, you know, like I'm having a good time, you know, but like black people will really, like, you know, if they're having a good time.
And they usually are. They can get a big kick out of a very small thing.
Yeah.
And that's what's really funny culturally is some of the times something that you and I would say to each other if we were just kind of exchanging insults in a friendly way, that it wouldn't be anything particularly funny, but it's something their culture's never heard. And like I called this guy, you snot-nosed little bitch, and that just killed him. You snot-nosed little bitch. They'd never heard a man call another man a snot-nosed little bitch. and it's not, but now some of the names that they come up with that you and I never heard, you roll on the floor. It's where the fuck did you put that combination of words together?
Why is it that I feel like a lot of the younger black comics now couldn't make it in a black room?
Younger black comics, you mean such as the ones you see in a mainstream club?
Yeah.
Because they've geared their act towards a white audience. They've geared their act to cross over to a white audience and done material that is very different from the culture that they come from most of the time. Or they're suburb blacks that are more comfortable in the white culture because they're not familiar with the hood.
Right.
That's often the case as well. A suburb black has almost as much disconnect to the black culture as you and I do.
Why is it hard even like, I mean, I grew up in like a white hood, you know, I mean, it was, you know, we're right next to the poor black neighborhood was the poor white neighborhood. I mean, we all rode the same school buses together. Why is it that it's hard to let go of the hood for people? Do you feel like even if they transcend class or environment, why does like the hood like stick to you? Do you know what I'm talking about at all?
I surely do, and it is a phenomenon that's very difficult for us to understand. It's something that I think there's a part of it that They like the idea that this is something I rose up from, and the friends that I have left behind are now my entourage and my fan club and the people that I know that I can trust to have the most connection towards. Like Biggie, when he was at his apex, a lot of times he said he found himself daydreaming about what was going on in the hood. And here's a guy living in penthouse, private jet level wealth. And he was wondering, what are the homies doing on the streets? Yeah. And that's just something that is a very difficult thing to disconnect from.
Yeah, and I guess because maybe life's so real out there. Like, you know, I felt like even in our neighborhood, life was very real for us because we all spent time together outdoors, you know, like there wasn't anything going on indoors except like fighting, you know, the air, we couldn't run the air conditioner. So it was like, it wasn't even comfortable to be indoors. So everybody was outdoors, and that's where, you know, you just got acclimated in your environment. You were really in your environment.
Right.
You know, you didn't just meet up for like play dates like kids do now and stuff like that. I mean,
play dates.
We spent our lives outdoors.
And we got, that's one thing you don't see that much of anymore, particularly in white culture. I mean, could you imagine probably in the home you grew up in that on a nice, bright, sunshiny day, you're sitting on the couch playing with your Xbox? My mom and dad would have said, get the fuck outside and go play. Yeah. You're not sitting around on that thing all day.
Yeah. Would have been, or given us a set amount of time, but then it's time to go.
Then it's time to go, exactly.
Yeah, you guys need to get outside. And didn't even really keep tabs. I think now everybody's just scared of like kidnappers, you know, like I was talking about, and pedophiles of attacking children, you know, and stuff like that. But to not even enjoy years of playing outside because of maybe one pedophile, that seems intense to me, you know?
And it really is a sad thing that we have come to that, such as now we're living in a culture that has swung once again with that pendulum too far in one direction, where you'll see a parent smack their kid in the ass in a grocery market, and then 15 minutes later, Child Protective Services is at their front door, and they're child abusers. That was not part of our lives growing up.
No.
And the kind of thing about walking to and from school at the age of, say, 6 years old. A 6-year-old kid walking to and from school by himself right now, the police are going to show up.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to harass the parents. There's some kind of child endangerment. Christ, we did it all the time. That was just part of it.
Now, I notice sometimes my tone of voice will change when I'm around black people, you know, if I'm around certain black people. Some black people it won't. And maybe that's just nature of just acclimating to an environment. What do you think about that? Because I know this happens a lot with white people and black people.
As long as it's not overdone, it's something that I look at it that I get a little jargony. Because when I'm around Latinos, I speak a little bit of Spanish.
Yeah, I'll even pull on a Latino accent, a Mexican accent, or a Spanish accent.
When I'm around, when anyone that you're around, if you're around a bunch of blue bloods, you're going to change your whole style.
Yeah.
All you have to really do to change your entire personality is put on a fucking suit sometime and walk out the door and immediately have a different attitude.
Yeah.
And a whole different demeanor about you.
Yeah, you feel like shit, dude. I might have a job.
Yeah. We're all things to all people. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you don't overdo it.
Yeah. That's the urban update right there, from the white side.
From the white guy, yes.
The bridge to Terra, the bridge to Blackabethia. That's kind of what you are a little bit for us, man. You know, because you've been out there, you're learning, man.
Learning is the best way to put it. Part of the culture, absolutely not. I always say the same thing to the newer white comics when they come into the club. This is what you need to remember. Act like you're a guest in somebody's home, because you are. Because when these black comics go to the mainstream clubs, they get treated like shit. So don't act like you have some entitlement to be on the stage. Act like you're a guest in someone's home.
It's interesting. I think that's a great thing to remember for almost no matter where we are, you know. But especially, culturally, you know. We still have to remember that there's, you know, even though we're all Americans, that there's a lot of there's a lot of cultural differences, you know. Gigantic at all. And to say the other thing is that when people say the term that we're all racist, I don't believe in that, because again, I've said for the umpteenth time, there's one race, the human race. Yeah.
But I think we all are guilty of prejudice, those of us that are going to be honest. Prejudice, the root of which is prejudge. We all see somebody of a different culture and prejudge them in some way or another, consciously or unconsciously.
Yeah.
For example, you're on a plane, somebody walks in with a turban. What do you think?
A turban of what?
Meaning that they walk in with a burqa. They walk in with a scarf.
headpiece.
Yeah, you walk in with
something. I don't know what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, but you see somebody that's clearly from the Middle East. What's the first thing you think of?
Oh, yeah, they're probably hiding jewels or something.
They got a bomb, or this guy is Haji that's going to hijack the plane with a razor blade, or who knows what. But you're not thinking, and I certainly have prejudgings towards people that aren't necessarily non-white skin. I prejudge the Russian culture quite a bit. I do that now.
Oh, yeah, I do everyone. I stereotype everyone for sure. I stereotype. I'm a stereotypist. I mean, I'd be a stenographer, you know. I mean, I do. And some of the stereotypes are good and accurate because it gives you healthy ways to approach people. But yeah, when you, I guess, go into a place of judgment sometimes can be, you know, it can be dangerous because you might not get, you might not get the full opportunity out of an opportunity.
What it does is it'll make you a better person. Just like I think we've discussed anything, I won't say anything out of school, but we're at least both familiar with 12-step groups.
Yeah.
And the first chance anybody has to ever beat an addiction is they must be able to look to a crowd and say, "Hi, my name is blank. I am an alcoholic."
Yeah.
And once you recognize, "Hi, my name is Roger, and I have prejudice towards other people," and that's your first chance to give yourself at least a fighting opportunity to overcome it and recognize when you're doing it.
Yeah.
And the first thing that I can think of is, I had a Corvette back in, because it was in 98. I had a Corvette that literally caught fire with me inside of it in a pouring down rainstorm. I barely got to the freeway exit, barely got out of the car alive with the thing almost in bursting flames. And it was pouring down rain. It was in the middle of Oakland. I ran 2 blocks, and I looked like a wet-soaked rat into this liquor store. I didn't have a dime in my pocket. Everything was still in the car. And 2 Middle Eastern guys that I would have been writing jokes about treated me like I was a Here, have a cup of coffee. Use our phone blanket. Don't worry, my friend. You can always buy another car. You're here. It's life. And I felt like a piece of shit because of the way I often speak about that culture.
Wow.
So, you know, we all have to keep our minds open and recognize, I've got this in me.
Because you never know when you're going to need someone of another culture. You never know when you're going to need anyone else.
You never know when you're going to need to have a better opinion of yourself.
Yeah.
That's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. That's a great way to look at it. Well, that's it, Roger Rod. I appreciate you coming in. And people can find you if they want to support the tour, Blue Lives Matter.
Blue Lives Matter Comedy Tour.
Mm-hmm. Blue Lives Matter Comedy Tour.
Yes, and that's .com. And at Roger Rod on Twitter and on Instagram and Facebook, same thing. And
ROGERRODD.
ROGERRODD, all one word.
Yeah. So you guys check him out. The oldest wigger in the game here with us today, and one of my favorite comedians to watch, man. Dude, I appreciate what you do, man, as I really do feel like, you know, you're helping people realize that that we can learn, man, you know?
Well, as much as I appreciate you for having me on the show, you're a very accomplished, certainly a lot further along in this game than I am. And for you to have brought me on board is a big honor. Thank you.
Well, I hope I'm able to sit there one day and be able to rehash so many good stories and have such a good attitude about my career and just about myself and about what's going on, and to be able to inspire other people to, you know, to think. They don't have to think differently, but at least inspire them to start by thinking, you know?
I think you do that already.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
All right, we'll be right back. We're gonna get some. Of you guys' questions. We got some great ones on this Mother's Day episode this past weekend. All right, let's get to some callers, guys. I'm so thankful for the calls. Just the questions. I'm gonna try to do another episode this week for Wednesday or Thursday. It's just a lot, but I'm gonna try. And it's just a lot because, you know, I got to pay somebody to edit it, and I got to just to piece it together. There's just a lot of stuff that goes into it. Got to rent studio if I need the studio. So there's just a lot of little things that go into it, but I'm overwhelmed with the amount of calls and questions and inquiries and I just want to say you're welcome. A lot of people have said thank you. I don't feel like I'm doing anything. I feel like I'm kind of a conduit of just trying to make an effort, you know, like, I think a lot of my life, I feel like I don't know if I felt like I haven't been a good person, but I feel like I've just thought about myself, and, you know, I don't want to be that way always. You know, sometimes selfishness is it's a disease a little bit, because sometimes you're selfish. I think I was selfish growing up because I was just worried that if I didn't think about myself, that nobody was going to be. And I may have said this before, but it's just kind of resonating with me right now. Like, I think I was selfish because I was worried. I was afraid. Like, if I don't think about me, then nobody is going to be thinking about me in the world. And when you're a kid, that's the scariest thing in the world. To think that no one's going to be thinking about you. That just, I don't know anything more hurtful to a child probably than to feel that no one is going to be thinking about them, that they're unthought of. And so I think I definitely developed some selfishness there as a child. I was just worried that if I wasn't thinking about me, that no one was. And then you get addicted to that. You just get used to it. It becomes a habit. I have to think about me, as a child. But then as an adult, you're just still stranded with this habit that's not serving you anymore. And to get out of that, I have to do things for other people. And I'm still learning that. And I got to try harder. But it is nice to know that some of you guys think that this podcast is helping to do that, because it makes me feel a little less selfish, or it makes me feel like I'm battling that leftover bad habit of just being self-serving. And especially I live in a self-serving city. I have a self-serving job. I feel like people say my job brings laughter to people, but it's hard not to feel like that it's just for me sometimes, or I don't know. But I love you and I appreciate the calls, and I'm grateful, man. There's so many nice messages and stuff. I wish I could play every one for you, and I'm gonna try to slowly incorporate them. I'll save them all, so when they'll fit in, they'll fit in. But let's get to some calls. We do have some female listeners out there, and they're growing. Our female listener population is growing, and I'm excited about that. And we had some callers call in about the first time they touched a little bit of crotch. And when you touch crotch as a child, it's like, it's just like somebody you ever have like a friend, you ever see those mitten packets that keep your hands warm? It's like a special packet that you buy that you put into a mitten, or if you have a bag or something, you want to put your hands in a bag, but it's cold in the bag. They got these little heat warmer packets that you can break kind of, or bend, and it cracks something inside of them, and it makes heat, free heat, small amount of heat. And people put those in their mittens or their socks or whatever, and those things warm. It's this intense warm. It's almost like this atomic little slice of rock. Well, that's what it's like for a boy. I felt like the first time you get near that crotch area on a female, the first time you get your hand up near that little female water spout, you just, that flat water spout, really, I should say, you're fired up. Because that's just, it's the first time, you came out of a vagina as a child, and then as a teenager, or whenever you get to touch some crotch, it's the first time you get back there. So you've really just been wandering around for a long time away from your shuttle bus, the shuttle bus that brought you into existence, the female crotch. And this is almost oddly kind of fitting for Mother's Day, because we all came out of a mother, most of us anyway, unless somebody made you somewhere. But let's get to the call right now. We got Robin in Atlanta calling us, and you are on the line, Robin.
Ooh, I'm nervous. Theo Vaughn. My name's Robin. I'm from Atlanta.
Ooh, she got a nice voice, huh? You like that? They used to have these phone sex lines. They might have them where you could call up at night and spend a bunch of your parents' money and listen to people talk about dirtiness on the air. And does she have a nice voice like those ladies? Orator. Onward.
And I want to comment on about everything that you say, but I wanted to comment specifically about the crotch touching. My first experience with having my crotch touched was...
Is this not exciting to everybody all of a sudden? I'm just like, wow, this is exciting, dude, because I want to know what girls thinking Onward.
Touched was in the 6th grade.
Ooh, naughty Robin Young. Okay, sorry for interrupting a bunch. Let's go on.
In the 6th grade, in my parents' backyard, in a refrigerator box with my boyfriend.
Wow, refrigerator box. Well, this is already awesome. Let me just say this is already awesome. I will never, next time I see some kids making a space shuttle out of one of those boxes, I'll never second guess that maybe they're up to more than that. That's for sure. Onward.
And I wasn't concerned about it being bad or nasty. It seemed pretty natural. But I was concerned because I knew his hands were dirty and that they might be salty and that...
Salty hands? Yeah, I mean, that's a concern. I mean, it is a concern. It's your concern, and I appreciate you sharing it with us. I mean, this is an intimate story. But yeah, I guess you could worry if they got salt, something gets up there. You know, you don't want a bunch of, you don't want things to start to purl inside of your vagina, and I don't know if that can occur or not. But yeah, I guess if you get a little bit of salt in there, it could start to purl up over by the time you're about, that's probably about 12th grade. I think it takes about 6 years for something to pearlize. Anyway, onward.
That concerned me a little bit, but it didn't end up stinging or anything. It did make me feel funny for about a week. Just funny mentally. I felt like I had crossed some threshold. And here's a question for you. What's the definition of fingering?
Wow. So, first of all, it made her feel funny for like a week. She said, that's interesting. I do remember feeling like I'd crossed some sort of threshold because all you have is a million mental images and ideas and GIFs, I guess, or GIFs, those little like video images that they have now. But back in the time, we used to call them memories. It was like or ideas. It was like a quick idea you had in your head of something. And those are kind of like the GIFs that we have now, I feel like. You'd have like this quick idea of maybe what a crotch was like or what, but the fact that it was salty but then once you found out what a crotch was like, I lost my train of thought. Once you found out what a crotch was like, you knew. You had this knowledge then. You had this, you'd opened up this universe, it's like you'd gotten like a special warp zone or a special sword on Zelda or something. Anyway, let's go back to Robin's call. Thank you for the call, Robin.
Fingering. Is fingering when you put your finger in the vagina, is that technically the definition? Is that also third base? Or is fingering just touching and feeling around on the vagina?
I think fingering is yes, you got to go fingers in. You got to be checking levels there. You got to be Mark Twaining. For anybody that knows anything about sea depth or river depth, you got to be, really digiting, getting a little bit of a stenographer's practice, if you will. I think it's got to be fingers in. And does it have to be one finger or two fingers? I guess it just has to be one. 2 fingers is always crazy too. Like, I remember there were times, personally, I'd put 2 fingers in a woman's vagina and be like, is this okay or am I being crazy? Like, am I a crazy guy? But I do remember, Robin, that was a thing for guys. It was like, how many fingers, bro? It was like if you touch, it wasn't enough then that you had touched a vagina or that you had put a finger into a local vagina. It was that you then had to do more fingers. It was, what about, she could take 3 fingers. Like, it became this weird, other thing, this bigger thing then. It was just, it's like everything. It's like once it happens, something happens, more has to happen. You need a bigger fix. But I feel like, that's third base was fingering. And then as you grow more adult, you realize that there's more action there's more action for the female outside of the vagina. You know, inside, you're basically just looking for something that's outside. You know, it's like whenever you bring your keys out to the car and you leave, and you have them in there, but you don't realize you have them in there and you think you left them inside, then you go back inside looking for your keys. It's just like that. It's like you go back and it's like you're inside a woman feeling around trying to get her that pleasure, but really the pleasure's already outside. You passed the pleasure. You had the pleasure. You just didn't realize you had it. So that's either a great analogy or a horrible analogy. I can't even tell. It's 1:30 in the morning. But let's listen to the rest of Robin's question or call.
And is that considered third base? What's your opinion about it? Love your show. I don't think you need any guests. I really like to listen to you ramble on whatever state you're in. You are a great philosopher. And, you know, dude, sometimes really funny people are just dark.
I hope she doesn't mean black. She could be a Mike Epps fan. I am a Mike Epps fan. I will say that. I appreciate the nice words, Robin. You know, I don't know. I mean, I appreciate you saying I'm really funny. I appreciate all the nice things you said. I appreciate your call. It was a cool call. Very real. You know, you shared some real thoughts there. Yeah, I don't know if comedians are just dark. People ask me that a lot. Are you just dark? I don't know. I don't know if comedians are that way. But I do know that I have some type of affliction in me where I get depressed, you know, and I battle it much better these days. You know, like this week I did make some choices. I went out. I didn't want to go to yoga, and I went. And I didn't want to go to the gym, and I went. And it made me feel better. Whereas there were times before, I'd be like, I'm just going to lay down. I'm just going to rest. I'm just going to sleep it off. And maybe I would take some naps, but I would just set my alarm, and I'd get back up, and I made some better choices. And it was hard. It was hard. There were times where I did not want to make that choice. But yeah, I think back to your question, Robin, or back to your inquiry, it's third base. That's touch and crotch. But the weird thing is for guys, it's just the third base only goes one way. It's not like it doesn't matter what the girl does to you. You know, the third base just only goes one way. And I remember, and I'll tell you, the first time that I touched a gal's crotch, my buddy and I had a sleepover over here out in north, like Franklinton, Louisiana. I mean, small town. I don't even know where it was. It's really just a bunch of people that are lost, and there's so many of them that they called it a town. Like, it's that rural. And we were out there on a double date, and some gal had a trailer out there, and her mother or stepmother, I don't know if she had a mother or father, but she might have had a stepmother, was out of town. Somebody was out of town. And we were over there, and everybody was touching crotch, you know. And the girl I was with, though, was doing, she had menstrual activities going on, so I couldn't be a part of it. I could just be the outside, just around her legs and crotch, just touching that heat. But even that was huge, just even feeling on that area of a body and realizing that there was no cock right there, you know. Because I was just used to my own area, where if I put my hands between my legs, cock. I find cock right there. But if it's a girl, no cock. And that alone was a big enough change. I mean, I was just erect as a just as a bird beak. I was hard as a damn cement bird beak. And that was exciting. I remember that. And then I remember we went to a dance. I think I've told this story before, and this is a little profane, but I'm going to be real. Robin called in, and she was real. And we'd had a school dance, and a buddy of mine had touched some crotch. He'd finally, you know, gotten a third base. You know, he was damn Ricky Henderson that night. And he slid in a third base, and the gal left, and we were all fired up, you know, and because one of us had finally gotten, you know, he was damn Neil Armstrong to us. One of us had finally gotten to the moon, you know. And so he's got his, you know, he's out there, he's got his fingers out, and my buddy's dad came out. We're sitting around the fire, and me, being an instigator, I told my buddy's dad what had happened. You know, I just wanted everybody to be a part of what was going on. And my buddy's dad started smelling my buddy's fingers. We're in 7th or 8th grade, no older. And my buddy's dad just started smelling my buddy's fingers over and over again. And that was pretty baffling. And he really kind of smelled them all up. Like, I remember at a certain point later, we tried to smell them, and there was no smell left on them. And I know that's dirty, and I know that's profane, but we are, we're animals in a lot of ways. We are fancy, fancy animals. And I don't really believe that, I don't think. But I do believe that, we have some of the same likenesses as animals. And so that's why we wanted to smell. It's just one of the things. You want to get that scent. You want to know what's going on. You're so curious. You're so curious. But then later, I remember sleeping at my buddy's house, and I looked out the window, and his dad was out there still by that fire, and his dad was masturbating out into that fire. So that was pretty intense. But onward, let's take another call here. And we got another call. This man calling in with some crotch from Texas.
Hey, Theo, it's Michael from Patterson, California. If you don't know where that is, it's centrally located.
Okay, not Texas. Onward.
In the state. But anyway, I was calling in to tell you about my first time I touched a lady part. I was 18. I guess that's a late bloomer, you could say, but
I don't know if it's a late bloomer. It isn't. It's when you bloom, brother. I'm still late blooming on stuff. I can barely use a calculator. So onward.
Anyway, it was this girl I knew from high school. She was a year younger than me, and we went to a party one night, not together. She was there, and well,
dude, I miss high school parties, dude. Dude, if I could go back to high school now, and obviously not be an adult because I don't want to be some kind of pedophile, but be like a high school kid, it was so easy to hook up with chicks. You just had no idea. That was a problem. You had no idea. You just couldn't see that the look in most girls' eyes was that they were curious. We were just so scared as young boys, I felt like. Anyway, onward.
Long story short, I left the party a little early. Well, after dropping my buddy off, I was on my way back to my parents' house, almost there, and I get a text message, and she says, "Why'd you leave so early? I was looking forward to hanging out with you." Well, I don't really remember. This was over 10 years ago, so I don't really remember what we said, but
So she wanted you to come back to the party? Okay, onward.
Parked out by the road. This was out in the country, out in the boonies, and she met me out by the road, and well, one thing led to another. I popped down the tailgate to my '94 Chevy Silverado.
Oh, God, this is beautiful, dude. Onward.
Put her on the back and started making out. And I went for it. I
can't get too fired up because they're only 18. I guess they're legal. I can listen. Go on.
Without getting too graphic, I mean, I unbuttoned her pants, zipped them down, didn't take her pants all the way off.
Yeah, you don't take her pants all the way off if you're going to finger her, bro, because that's creepy as fuck, dude. Okay? If you're the kind, that's like the dude who pulls his pants all the way down in the bathroom to urinate. You ever seen that boy when you were growing up? They had always some creepy fucking pale-ass kid or some big black kid would have their pants all the way down to their feet, and they're just peeing? What the fuck? Anyway, let's hear more.
But I put my hand down there and slipped a finger in her, and the first thing...
Ooh, slipped a finger in her. You heard him? Ooh, whoa. Onward.
The first time slipping a finger in a girl, first thing I thought was, God damn, this is the wettest thing. I wasn't expecting it to be so wet. I mean, it was like a slip and slide. I couldn't believe how wet it was. I mean, that was the only thing that was going through my mind the whole time.
Damn, bro. I'm just... Wow, you must have grown up in a really dry county then. Or anyway, onward, dude. That humidity, bruh. Ah!
But anyway, so
I'm gonna say it was damp, bro. I remember being like, whoa, this thing has had its thirst quenched. I do remember that, just being shocked, like, what is going on? They're hiding water around here, you know? Yeah, I do remember that, dude. I do remember that. And you still catch it occasionally with some older gals, but some of them now, it's like, some of it's like kind of shuffling a little bit of a deck of cards there on the outside and get a little, what do I want to say? You can get a little, velvety on the outside. Anyway, onward.
I mean, the first time you did it, were you surprised about how wet it was? I mean, it was unbelievable. It was unbelievable. But
damn, unbelievable. You know what? I think I was, man. I think I was, you know. I think I was just, I remembered as being so erect, I thought I was going to faint. Like, so much, because I have like a wide penis, and so much blood ran to my penis that I always get a little bit faint whenever I get really erect. So that's like an issue that I've had. Kind of like one of those, you ever see those goats that faint when they get scared? Kind of like that. I feel like I'm kind of like that sometimes with sex. Onward.
But anyway, that ended up leading to my first blowjob. Same gal, but that's a different story for another time. But anyway, and one last thing, one thing I didn't like heading back home was, some people call it stink finger. My fingers didn't really smell. And I was kind of bummed out. That was the only thing I was bummed out about. They didn't smell, and to be honest, I wanted to smell my fingers and go home and jerk off, but
damn, bro. You know what? I got to say this, man. Thank you for calling. You know, because you know what, people could say, oh, that's gross, that's nasty. You could say anything you want about this fella's call right here. But the truth is that this is what a lot of guys thought. These are thoughts that a lot of guys have. And Robin's call was unique because it was something that girls have. It's that side of the story from them. You know, I don't get that side of the story. I don't know. Fascinated by both of these calls. Fascinated by the nostalgia of this second call. And let me get his name again right here so I don't forget.
Hey, Theo, it's Michael from Patterson, California.
Michael. Yeah, Michael. Just fascinating because, yeah, you gotta, I think that's called like a golden warlord or something if you don't get a scent on your finger from a woman, or a woman that doesn't have a scent in her crotch. It's called like a golden warlord, or like I don't know what it's called, just like a damn, I mean, it's definitely, that's more bottled water than, sometimes you get the gals a little tap, you get more tap water out of them, but that's beautiful, man. It's a beautiful story, and it just, I just love the fact that you pulled her pants down, dude. That's fucking what? Crazy, bro. Love it. Michael, you're my hero this week, dude. You just reminded me of what, of a time in my life, of being just around that cooter and just being unaware of what another person's crotch was like, and just having just uncertainty and just that magic that was out in the universe. And that's one thing that happens as we get older. Like, we forget that we get used to things, It's crazy. When you think about how insane you were about touching a crotch of somebody else, and then how now that's not, it's still an issue, but it's not as much as it used to be. Baffling amount of difference. Thank you so much for that call, man, just to take me down memory lane. I can't even remember if you had a question for me. I don't even know if that was in there. I'll listen back later if so and get back to you, but just fascinating, man. Just fascinating to go back to those days and just that heat. It was like just that body heat coming off just that area of a woman was just fascinating. And I remember one time getting down there and I couldn't tell what was going on. I thought this one girl didn't even have a vagina. I thought she just had a bunch of crazy, skin activity. God, I remember that. Just like, what is going on? Where is this? Very scary and very exciting. Very fun being young, man. Let's take one more call, man. We're going to switch gears here. And this one is from Walnut Creek, California. Let's go.
Hey, what's up, Theo? Theo. My name's Miles, and I was just kind of wondering on how you stay sober.
And man, actually, I know I have some other calls I want to get to more, but I'll try to do some this week. I had a call coming in about sobriety that I do want to answer, but this is already going to be a long episode, and so I just want to take a moment just to say thank you guys so much for being a part of the show, for calling in. We'll field whatever calls this week. I might put into the Thursday episode some ideas for for coming up for other calls we can get. I already have people that have left some voicemails about the future and questions, and eventually we'll get it to call in where people can call in and we can talk live, even though I don't even know if I could have dealt live today with these calls today about the crotches. Very fascinating, man. Very fascinating. And I just want to thank you guys so much, man. I love you and I appreciate you. And yeah, and I got some really nice calls and voicemails, and I really, really appreciate it. And I'm going to get to some of these questions. This one kid called about some sobriety stuff, and I really want to get to it, and I will. I will get to it, so hold on, buddy. I promise that I'll get to it and get it out this week, because I want to share with you whatever I can, Fuck, do I need to get to it right now? Let me get to it right now, because I'm going to feel bad if I don't, if I let this go. Let's get it. This is, this call, it's changing the scope. We've had it's been, whatever. Let's get to it. Here we go. This is from Walnut Creek, California.
Hey, what's up, Theo? My name's Miles, and I was just kind of wondering on how you stay sober. Because I've been taking, some pills here and there. And it's really fun, but, it's, I feel like it's just sort of time to quit. So I was just sort of wondering, advice on how to deal, I guess, with, being sober. Because, to be honest, it's really boring. Oh my God, spending whole days. The day seems like 2 days in one now that I've been sober for a week. And I was just wondering.
That's funny, man. He said being sober is boring. It's it's sad. It's sad and perfect and everything. Because it is kind of boring, man. It's boring until you're able to start dealing with some of your feelings and what's going on and whatever made you start to, overtreat yourself with medication. Then it gets interesting, dude. It gets interesting, man. When feelings start coming back and you start having feelings, man, like when I'm talking about my mom earlier and I get teared up, that didn't used to happen to me, man. I wasn't able to access those feelings, dude. When I see one of my friends posted a picture of her and her baby. She has a new baby. And I remember a couple years ago, telling her I almost was going to we were almost deciding that we were going to have a baby together, even though we weren't in love or anything. We just were maybe going to have a baby just because she's getting a little older and we've always been friends and we both wanted I thought she'd make a great mother because she's always been a great friend. And she has a baby now, dude, and I saw a picture of her, her first Mother's Day or something today. Shit teared me up, dude. So you'll have real feelings, man. That's one thing. That can be exciting, bro. I know it sounds crazy and probably gay as, but it's exciting, bro. But what was your question? How do I stay sober?
I was just wondering, I guess, how you deal with it. And I don't know if you've ever, taken pills or anything like that. But, I was just wondering your advice. I like the show, and I actually just got your album, so keep it up, man.
Wow, man, thank you for the support. Let me catch your name again. I'm sorry.
Hey, what's up, Theo? My name's Miles.
Miles. Thanks for the support, Miles. I do appreciate it. How do I stay sober, dude? Well, I just decided that I'm not going to drink or use, and I didn't decide that I'm going to do it for the rest of my life. because that's a huge undertaking. And I can't do anything for the rest of my life. I can't. First of all, I don't know what the rest of my life's going to be. But I know that I cannot drink or use for today. You know? I know that. And look, a lot of you guys out there are like, well, dude, I drink, I use, that's fine. Look, I have no issue. If you can drink and you can party and you can have a good time and you can live your life and your life's fun and comfortable, that's great. You know, I might be able to do that one day. I don't know. But I do know that for right now, I'm not in that position. So how do I stay sober, man? I listen to people that are more sober than I am. And I try and figure out what my feelings are. You know, because I didn't want to have any feelings. And I'm sure that's why you take pills, dude. Pills, bro? I remember one time I took a pill. Next thing I knew, it was Thursday, bro. And I think when I started, it was Friday. So it was like a long pill, dude. Yeah, I remember one time some dude gave me some somas. This fellow that was homosexual, and he ended up dying. He drove I think a Chevy Cavalier into a cement embankment. And he was a boxer. He was a homosexual prize fighter. But he might have even tried to blow me one time when I was on somas. I don't even remember. So, are pills fun? I don't know. I mean, it was definitely fun not having any feelings and like just spitting up on my shirt all night. It was kind of cool. It was like being in the hospital, but I was just in the back of a Chevrolet Blazer. But overall, long term, is it fun? You know, I just don't think it's good. Because I just would love for you to take a chance and see what you're really like if you don't use pills. You know, just take a chance. Look, dude, if you don't like who you are when you don't use pills, go back. Go back to them, bro. But at least give yourself a shot to see who you are. You're out here. You know, if you got issues, man, look, clean them up. You'll be able to clean them up when you're sober. I promise you. It's going to take some time. It's going to be a pain in the ass. You have to sit and think and write and listen to other people. Probably going to have to cry and listen to some fucking dudes talk in group settings and stuff where you're like, dude, shut the fuck up. But you'll get better. It gets better. I promise you that. And it's fascinating. And it's the ballsiest thing you could do. You want to take a pill? Take a pill of fucking sobriety, bro. Take a pill of, you know what? Whatever life throws at me today, I'm going to look it in the fucking face. You know? Take that pill. That's a pill, bro. You want a pill? You want to ride? You want to ride? Try feeling everything. Try having conversations with people when shit's uncomfortable and you can't resort to anything else. And you have to just tell them how you really feel. Try that. That's a pill, bro. That's a pill, man. But I'm here for you, Miles. If you need me, you can leave another voicemail, a private one on here that I won't use on the episode. And but I don't know how I stay sober, man. You know, I invite a higher power into my life, even though I struggle with that every day. And I don't try to stay sober forever. I'm just trying to stay sober for tomorrow, you know. But it's amazing. I started this podcast in sobriety. Dude, if I was still partying, I don't think I would have been able to do it. I don't know, but I don't think so. And I also don't want to pigeonhole myself. And I don't want to tell you that you need it forever. I don't want to tell you any of those things. I don't want to tell you that AA is a be-all, cure-all, end-all. Because if I'm not sober forever, then people are going to be like, well, it didn't work for him. I don't want to tell you any of that, man. I just want to tell you that I think it's worth a try. You know? And I think it's worth the same amount of effort you put into getting pills or using pills. Just at least give it that same amount of effort. See how it works, you know? It might work well. But I love you, Miles, man. And you know, it sounds like you want to at least try to get, I don't know, better, but you want to try to get different. So just try to get different, man. See how different works. Thank you for calling, bro. I really do appreciate it. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers, man. I'm going to take us out of here, man. It's getting late. God, it's so late. This is going to be up late, guys. It's going to be up late because it's already 2 a.m. here. That's 5 a.m. East Coast. It's not going to be there for people on their drive to work. So I'm sorry about that. It's going to take a couple hours to edit. All right, man. But I'm going to take you out here, man. It's been a beautiful time chatting. I hope so. Thank you to our callers. Hit the hotline. You know what it is. Check out my tour dates at theovon.com/tour. And just tell somebody you love them today. Call your mother again today and tell her that you love her. How about that, huh? How about just calling your mother again today? Nap time. I don't know if it's just me, but just tired as... I see people sleeping at bus stops and people that might be dead but are hopefully just sleeping. I see, a lot of just resters and even birds. Like the chirping you hear is more like a chirp, chirp. Like everything is just, it's. I guess it's that time where things are just kind of conserving their energy to fend off that hard summer that's coming upon us. That dirty heat, that fancy heat that can just press you. When that heat comes, it can be violent. Heat, sometimes the sun just burns down a house. You ever thought about that? Sometimes the sun just burns down a house. Oh, a forest fire started? Why? The sun did it. Yeah, everybody wants to talk about, how science is amazing and everything, but the sun is out there sometimes fucking burning down houses. So let's be realistic and recognize what can go on out there and recognize that it's still May and that things can be dangerous. Things can be dangerous. Welcome. We got a lot of good stuff on this episode of This Past Weekend. We don't have a guest. We do have some news we're going to hit. Trump was over there hanging out with the Slims, the Muzzies. He's in Muslim land. We had a girl got attacked by a sea lion. Some students walked out in Notre Dame at the commencement speech from Vice President Michael Pence. And what else happened? I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what else happened. I got some new dates that I want to drop on you guys. I'm traveling. I'm taking this show on the road. I will be in Pittsburgh, Nashville, Stark County, Illinois, New York City, Orlando, Florida, where that alligator got that child, and where Disney World is at, and millions of people are. San Diego and Las Vegas, all before the end of July. Tickets and info at theovon.com/tour. So you can crack into that. Also, theovon.com/store has the new album. It's called Musket Fire, The Early Years of Satire. It's all the early stuff. It's stuff that's similar to what's on the Netflix special, and it is. You may already have it. Some of you guys might have gotten it at a show, at a live performance. If that's the case, then you don't need it. So anyway, this is not for you. Then you won't want doubles, but it's for some people. I want to thank Kara. I had a lovely lady come and meet me at a show and gave me this new mug, this past weekend mug. So I'm happy to have that, and I'm even happier to be here with you guys. I want to give you guys the hotline number. People are always asking me, what is the hotline number? I don't have it. I don't know how to use a phone. My grandmother's ill, whatever. That number is 985-664-9503. You can call in there, ask questions for basic life suggestions that we can offer. And I also realized you can text that number. I've thought about putting up an email where people can email, but for now, since we still don't have an email, you can text that number if you don't feel comfortable calling. That number again, 985-664-9503. And let's hit the news, man. Yeah, Trump was in, I guess he's in Saudi Arabia, Iran. Trump was in Iran or Iran. People call it different things. That's fine. I'm kind of fascinated with seeing Trump go anywhere. I think Trump single-handedly seems to keep the news in business. I don't know what they would talk about. Like, if it weren't for Trump, would there even be any news? Would those companies be able to find news? There's a lot of distrust with the Middle East. That place can never seem to get along. It's unfortunate. It's hot as hell. It's like, I'm surprised they all just don't stay indoors and email each other. I'm amazed that the Middle East is even able to fight each other and have that much anger when it's so hot out. If I get angry, I prefer to get angrier in the colder months where even that anger is kind of creating some self-warmth for you and providing, a positive for you as a person. Like I remember being so cold that I just got furious so I would feel more comfortable. So I'm amazed that the Middle East is able to, just keep all the strife up. I wish they would mail some of the oxycodone problem that we have in America over there, just to give everybody a little bit of time to chill out, Who knows? Maybe some global warming will bring some beaches over there into the Middle East, and maybe some new shoreline will help everybody relax. I think spending time by the water is usually very calming. I remember actually going back to last episode, we had people call in about the first time somebody touched their crotch. We had a man and a woman call in, and if you didn't get to hear that, really fascinating and interesting to me to hear somebody's experience of the first time they got that hand. Somebody put their hand on their meat, on their downtown, on their, on that. It's when because at a certain age, your crotch really starts to kind of beckon another, if you will. It's almost like your crotch doesn't exist, and then suddenly you hear your crotch start to whisper a little bit, whisper this like, somebody, looky. And at first you don't, but as you get a little older, that it starts to be like, somebody looky. Touchy. Your crotch starts to beckon. Come here. Oh, pampa. Your crotch starts to want another. It's almost like a magnet is put into your body. It's almost like a magnet that is shaped like whatever your crotch parts are. And we had some callers that called in towards the end of last week's episode talking about the first time they got touched in that area. Comfortably, by a person they trusted and were interested in. And one woman got touched in a refrigerator box, which I thought was interesting, and another fella hooked up with a girl in the back of a truck, which also was which I could relate to. But I remember, I never got to iterate my time. The first time I, had some gal touch me down there, I was on a boat dock, and that's where if you have a boat, instead of just pulling it right up by the shore and getting off of it, like you're some kind of pilgrim, people build a little dock, a piece of wood, a stretch of wood from the land out into the water, kind of meets the boat halfway. It's almost like a handshake, like a wooden handshake that goes out from the land and, kind of welcomes the boat back from the water. But anyhow, this gal gave me a hand job, an ejaculatory experience out there on this boat dock. And it was nighttime or dusk. It was just starting to get dark, I guess. And I started, spraying out at the end, and that's nature. And some people think that's gross and whatever. And well, guess what? If you think that's gross, then you must think that you're gross. Because you got here because of ejaculation. Do you realize that? That all most of us are is tall ejaculation. That's all we are. We are ejaculation that has gone astray, if anything, at best, And so if you're grossed out by that, then you need to come to terms with that, I think, I hate to pass judgment, but that is, you got to get that together. Because if someone's talking about semen or seed, and that's what you're made out of at your root level, then that's alarming if you can't deal with that, I feel like, And that's how you started. You weren't made out of, sugar and flour. You're not a recipe, you are seed and egg. So anyhow, I remember getting ejaculated out into the water off this boat dock, and all these fish came and started, just devouring all of, what I'd created with my body, my ejaculation, and I hate to, now I'm feeling I've said it enough. They started devouring up my seed, and I remember that gave me nightmares for, I don't even know how long, months at least, that there were, I'd have these dreams that I was, like around fish and I was erect, and it was just alarming. And I'd get alarmed near fish and near water, and I would feel just nervous whenever I would swim in the river or anything, extremely nervous, scared of snakes, and then also scared of that these fish that had gotten this, dessert out of my body were going to come back and were going to find me or knew me, as if because sometimes dogs can remember your smell. They have dogs. Some dogs work for the police department, and they are, prime time sniffers. And they can, remember you just through their nose. And I was worried that fish would be able to remember me and come back and get me. But anyhow, what we're talking about, Trump was in the Middle East. I just think, I think it's funny watching Trump do anything. He's a fish. He is a fish out of water. He wasn't a politician. He got into it. He won the election, and I've never been a big fan of politics. I don't think any of these I don't think this system, for me, is set up to really, I don't think it's helping as much as we wish it could. And also, I don't know if it ever will or can. I don't know what a lot of our complaints are sometimes. Like, all we can do is do our best for ourselves, I just need to continually worry about me and about keeping my side of my life clean, because I still have problems. Before I can even really, when I think about it, even though I get mad about things politically, the bottom line is my politics and my own life and heart aren't even straight. So to then expect the whole system to be great when I'm not as organized and as functioning and efficient as I could be, it's a big ask. It's a big ask, But I'm worried less about politics since I don't have that much faith in the system. That I'm worried more about news and where do we get real news these days, And people, I'm not going to go into it, but I find that the news these days is all advertising. I look at it all as advertising. It's all an opinion more than it is the facts. So where do I get my news these days? I trust my heart, my instincts, and that's it really, and I try to just stay on the slow trail of making myself better on the politics that are inside of me, because those are hitting really close to home, aren't they? So why don't we try and maybe, we can try to spend our time, gestating over those rather than the big picture ones. What else in the news? Notre Dame students walked out. They had a commencement speech, or a fancy talk, you can call it. Mike Pence, who is the vice president, who's, this year everybody's in an uproar about, or it seems to be. A lot of people walked out. They didn't want to listen to Mike Pence. They don't like his views. I don't know that much about Mike Pence. I've never been that into vice presidents. I don't know anybody that has, except for like some creepy substitute teacher when I was in junior high who was like, had like he might have had like a tattoo of Michael Dukakis on his back or something. But yeah, these students walked out. Yeah, it's their right, that's cool. I would have stayed, I think, just because then you miss the experience, Like, how do all they know from Mike Pence is what they've seen on the internet or what they've, read. Like, is that super trustworthy? For me, it's not. I would have listened to the guy, then you can be like, oh, I didn't like this that he said. I didn't like this that he said, but you didn't even get that, you didn't even stay to get, even if you got one thing out of his speech that inspired you, that's more than most college students get in their 4 or 5 years of college. For me. So I probably would have stayed and listened. I was on a cruise one time as a student. I was working on work study on a thing called Semester at Sea. And we went to Cuba. This is in 2002. And Fidel Castro came and spoke to us. Or we went and listened to him. I'm sorry, he didn't come onto the ship. It was a cruise. It's a really great program. It's called Semester at Sea. There's There's like about 1,200 students, and it goes around the globe on a ship, on a cruise ship. So you get to experience, it's like a buffet of planet Earth. You get to go to different countries and have some experiences. And one of my experiences was to visit Cuba, and Fidel Castro came and spoke. Now, Fidel is, I think it's pretty factual that he's murdered people. He's a dictator. I know for a fact, I walked into some bookstores in Cuba, and their history books started at when Fidel and Che came into existence there. Before that, you couldn't even find any history. So they said this is when our time began, and you couldn't find any history before that. So obviously they were dictators, right? But I still sat and listened to the guy. Like, I wanted to catch a vibe from him. I wanted to get some kind of idea. What did I think, Did I feel like the whole time he was talking that he was full of shits? Did I think that he, could I see how he could, manipulate the human language so that he was able to control people? Like, I just wanted to see. I wanted to get a vibe. So I stayed and listened, man. I just wanted to see. And maybe he would have addressed those allegations. He didn't. He didn't talk about being a dictator. He talked about just how well Cuba was doing and their relationships with America. And a lot of it seemed really, canned and whatever. But it was a great experience, and I stayed for the experience. I stayed for that experience. Because if I walk out, I'm not a huge Fidel Castro fan, but if I walk out, I lose the chance to listen, And also, as a man and as a dark artist, I got the darkness in me sometimes. And there's something old school about some of these dictators, that they're the last of a kind, Like, there's like, I don't think it's wrong for at some point someone to think like, I want to rule a colony, or I want to, be a king. If I were in the medieval times, I would have ruled the land, or I would have been a king, or I would have, had a bunch of unicorns, or, I would have had all the wild ponies and the maidens and all that. And this dude did that, like, say what you want. Like, yeah, I'm sure, maybe he was a piece of shit, but he was also a ruler and a dictator. And that's pretty fucking gangster when you think about it, to just have whatever you want, kill whoever. It's like Game of Thrones. It's like, people love watching Game of Thrones. And part of it is because we would like to imagine ourselves in these roles of being a dictator, of being a ruler, even just to imagine yourself there in that role for a bit. That's interesting, So I wanted to stay because I got to hear a dictator speak for 3 hours, and it was interesting. It was interesting, But the Notre Dame kids, they didn't want that. They wanted to walk out. And to me, it's a little bit disrespectful, but I guess if that's, if you feel that strongly and that much about Mike Pence and you're already against him, then I guess I can understand, because I also like to be efficient and I don't like to waste my time. So, but that's something that went on, man. That's something that else happened in the news. What else? British Columbia, a sea lion attacked an Asian girl. Now, if you're not familiar with where British Columbia is, then you're just like me. It is, I believe, it's part of Canada. It's like on the far east coast of Canada. And I could be wrong. That's fine. All we need is one plate tectonic shift, and I might be right. So, you never know, dude. You ever think about that? All we need is one plate tectonic shift, and everything could change, bro. Next thing you know, it's Papua New Sacramento, huh? You ever thought about that? Have you considered that, bro? That it could be the District of Mississippi, the Washington, D.C.M., the Washington District of Mississippi with one big plate tectonic shift? You could be living in Pensacola, Pennsylvania. All it takes, bro, one time for Mother Nature to move her bowels and everything's going to change. So think about that. Oh, what else, man? So a sea lion attacked a girl, an Asian girl. And I don't know if they pick favorites or what they prefer, but this sea lion, there's a video on it on YouTube's on the internet, and they have a little girl, and her and her family, they're Asian, and they are standing around and they look nice, you know. And dude, I have never met an Asian that didn't look nice. They all look like they fit perfectly into their clothes, like they come in exact sizes, you know. Like they fit a small, they fit a large, they fit a medium. They other like white people, I know for sure it's like, oh, what I'm between an L and an M, you know. Like I got to buy a shirt and then dry it twice and then not, you know, and then never dry it again to fit. But Asians, I mean, right into a shirt. It's like they never. It's almost like they knew the shirt in a past life and now they're meeting back up. They always seem to fit very well into their clothing. But anyhow, this sea lion, the family's playing with it. It's in the water, in some type of water, I'm guessing off of British Columbia. And it kind of jumps up by the girl, and the family thinks it's cute. Well, then the girl sits with her back facing, this is off of a dock, you know, right? I mean, keeping docks in the lineup here. This is off of a dock. The girl sits, and the sea lion jumps, grabs the back of her shirt, pulls her into the water, bro. And then she has a grandfather that's Asian, and he jumps in very quickly, and gets in and gets her and gets right out. Remarkable quickness too for that man for rescuing her, I thought. But then a lot of Asians I see very docile, extremely well put together. I mean, it's almost just well organized bodies and minds. I feel like they're kind of the Tesla of humanity for me. That's what I think. But my thing is, why was this family playing with a fucking sea lion? Okay. First of all, it's called a sea lion. Yeah. Not a sea puppy, not a sea kitty, not a sea horse. They have those. But this is a sea lion, dude. Both things, the sea, all right, extremely dangerous, you know, owns 70% of Earth, fact, maybe more, kills pirates, kills bacteria, salt water, what else, dude? Kills surfers, has sharks living in it. That's what the sea is. And then a lion, bro. Lion. Yeah. Not a kitty, a lion. You ever spent time around a lion? Yeah. Well, we probably haven't heard from you if you have, because they fuck people up, dude. A lion doesn't play, bro. A lion will lick your eyeballs out of your fucking face holes. Okay? So that's what a lion does. So sea lion, no thanks. I'm out. You know, that's like somebody saying, hey, why don't you have one of these, Grim Reaper viper snakes? You know, why don't you get one of these Grim Reaper viper snakes, buddy? You'll be fine. No, I won't probably. And that's the kind of shit that pisses me off when, you know, you have prideful Asians who are fired up and they just start thinking that they have it all, and the sea lion attacks. But you don't fuck with sea lions, dude. You don't fuck with sea lions, dude. Knock, knock, who's there? Somebody who's not fucking with sea lions. That's who, okay? Have I been attacked before? Yes. I've been attacked by cats, been attacked by dogs, been attacked by a group of black men a couple times. Or not men, but you know, kids that were in my grade, but that were also older than me, who'd been in my grade before, some of them. I've been attacked, you know. I got hit by a car, too, when I was a child, a nice silver car. So I've been through some things. Just letting you guys know that. What else, man? What other news? Let's crack into a little more news for you guys. The NBA playoffs. To me, it's boring. Sorry. It looks like it's coming down to Golden State versus Cleveland, which we all knew about 6 months ago. So just the simple fact that everybody knew it and now it's happening just takes some of the excitement out of it. You know, Golden State this time, they're going to be a rematch in the finals, and this time Golden State has one more all-star player, Kevin Durant. I think it's almost overwhelming how some of these teams can just pile on the all-stars and then they win the championship. That was one nice thing about seeing LeBron win last year. Even though they were pretty stacked, it didn't seem like they were as stacked as Golden State. It's going to be interesting, too, this year when they rematch, and LeBron doesn't have a lot of new players, and Golden State does. I'm a little bit sick of the NBA. I think that the players have gotten too fast. I think that the level of talent is too high. I would like to see a larger court or higher rims. And I'd like to see some diversity. I'd like to see more diversity in the NBA. Too many African-American players. I want to see more white players, more Viet, more Asian, more poly. Latino players, where are they at? Okay? How about some good Mexican players? You telling me that you don't want to see Guillermo Gomez fire off a 50-foot three-pointer wearing khaki pants like he does every day on his lunch break in Los Angeles? Every day, drive by a playground, you'll see it. Mexican guys love basketball. I'd love to see more represented in the NBA. I also want to see an Asian coach, head coach, an Asian coach. We've had Eric Spoelstra. Yeah, Eric Spoelstra. Yes, I get it, but I want everybody to know that he's Asian. I don't want a coach where some people are like, I think that guy is maybe Indian. No, I want a coach where everybody knows he's Asian. I'd just like to see some more diversity. NBA, help me out. Help me out. Sorry, I'm sipping on my on whatever I'm drinking there. All right, guys, what else? We're going to crack into some questions. I want to thank everybody for hitting the basic life suggestions. The hotline, and again, that number, 985-664-9503. I didn't have a ton that happened this past weekend. I just didn't really have a lot of stuff. I'll give you a sensual update. Personally, I'm still struggling. It's really kind of flared up, struggling with the masturbation and the masturbatory actions and activity, and pornography is kind of snuck back into my lifestyle, and I'm not happy about it. So it's a challenge, man. It is a challenge. And for those of you watching porn comfortably, jerk away, Daddy Bear, or frickin' bean out, sugar tits, bean out. But for those of you struggling with it, just keep trying. We keep applying ourselves. That's what I try to do, is just know when I'm messing up, or just know when I want to do better. And I got to start asking my higher power for some help, because I'm starting to think that maybe I'm not capable of solving the issue or getting it to a comfortable place for me on my own. So we'll see. We'll see about that. But let's get into a few callers here. Let's go from, I think this is Catherine.
Hey, Theo. This is Megan from Phoenix.
Megan, onward.
I'm just calling in because had a lot on my mind lately, just generally about how I'm doing, where I'm going, and it all kind of comes down to the question of how do I feel most successful, and I was calling to kind of ask you the same question. How do you measure and value success?
We got some uncertainty in the desert, it sounds like, with Megan. Let's go.
Right now I have 3 jobs. I'm working my ass off to do what I want to do, and it seems to be going in fairly the right direction, but I'm constantly stuck thinking maybe I should do more. Maybe I'm not doing the right thing. And like my brother's getting married, my cousin just had a baby, my mom just beat cancer. Like these are things that I value as successful, and that what I'm doing I don't really see as much. So I was just honestly curious about how you value success.
Wow. I'll say this immediately. Can you notice how women are so good at just organizing their thoughts? Concise. Like she kind of got it all out. Most of the calls from dudes were like, hey, bro, this is, it's just interesting how we're different like that. And that's not everybody. That's just Megan and then all of us men. Thanks for calling, Megan. I appreciate it. It sounds like, you're measuring success. You want to feel successful. You weren't really comparing material things. So that's great. It's great that you're not in that plane, on that plane or on that tangent or something. I don't know what it's called, but it's something where it's not. It's great where you're not comparing yourself to others materially, because it never ends, bro. There's like a guy in Persia who's like, eating, drinking gold milkshakes out of silver vaginas, and that guy wins. He wins. So materially, you can't. It's hard, but it sounds like you're comparing yourself to people emotionally, or like in things that matter. It sounds like maybe your soul is a little low, your soul might be low. And one of the ways you can fill that up is by doing things for others, because you mentioned things like, your brother is having a baby, or your cousin's having a baby, your brother, I don't know if he graduated something, your brother did something, your mother just beat cancer, those are all things that are, family and oriented or family focused, or, things that are important, things that are meaningful. So it sounds like you're looking for something meaningful. And ways you can find that are really just going to be by helping others, but in the meantime, if you don't have that ability, you can, say if you don't have a family of your own, you didn't mention that, you can still be a good daughter, you can still be a good new aunt to the baby. You can, work on being the best one of those that you can be. And if you're doing that, then you really are doing your part. Maybe you're just not recognizing some of the things you are doing, you said that you're working 3 jobs, but you're also, it sounds like, have been working 3 jobs in the soul section. You have a mother that beat cancer, and it sounds like you care about her, so you were probably there for her. You have a new baby coming into the family, and it sounded like, you at least know your cousin who's having a baby, and your brother. I can't remember what's going on with him. Let me go back and listen.
Right now I have 3 jobs. I'm constantly stuck thinking maybe I should do more. Maybe I'm not doing the right thing.
Let me see. Sorry.
And like my brother's getting married.
Your brother's getting married. Yeah, so you have the brother getting married. And I bet, maybe you're feeling lonesome there. I don't know if you're married, but you can be the best sister you can be, be the best bridesmaid or whatever, however you're involved. So it sounds like, those are 3 jobs that you're doing as well. So maybe you just need to recognize that your soul is probably a little more fuller than you think it is, that you are pretty successful, even when it comes to things that matter, not just work. And how do I measure success? I haven't always done it well. I grew up having a lot less than people. I grew up feeling less than and unloved. And so I really put a lot of those things as things that made me feel successful. Just wanting people to like me no matter what, needing to be popular because I felt like no one cared when I was young. So, I put some of those things ahead that I shouldn't have. But now I'm trying to fill myself up in the soul section, So maybe I'll see you in the soul section at Sam's Club. Wouldn't it be great if they had a soul section? You're like, oh, I'm just going to get a couple bags of these uplifting flakes. So I just got to keep working. I got to keep working at it. I think I'll feel successful then, when I'm a loving, caring person that is continuing to be that each day, even when I feel some days like I don't want to be. So I think that would be my definition of success, and helping others, those are days when I feel the best. But don't be too hard on yourself, because it sounds like, just from your voice, maybe it's judgmental, but it sounds like I bet you're a pretty good person. All right, let's take another call. Here we go.
Hey, Theo. This is Chucky from Odessa, Texas.
We got Chucky from dirty Odessa, Texas. I've been down there to Odessa, and I saw one of the dirtiest animals I'd ever seen. I don't know what kind of animal it was. It had a lot of dirt on it. Onward, Chucky.
And I was calling because I wanted to get some advice from you.
Okay.
And it was spurred because of the listener, Michael, the one that finger banged the chick on the back of his 94 pickup.
Yep, I remember Michael called last week. We had some people calling about crutch and touch last week, touch and crotch. Onward.
But anyway, so I was wanting to get your advice on how to get over the first girl that gave me a blowjob. I've been chasing the dragon ever since. I've gotten blowjobs from multiple girls, but it seems like she's the one that tops them all. Unfortunately, she's moved on and she's married, which is fine. I don't have any feelings for her, but the blowjob part is what I'm having trouble getting over. Like I said, I'm still chasing that dragon, and she tops them all.
Wow. Okay. So you had that great blowjob, that beautiful sucky suck from that girl, and she's gone and married now, and you're trying to get past that. Well, for one, have you thought about the fact that, I mean, your penis might have less feeling in it these days, you know? I mean, that might sound crazy, but when I was young, brother, I mean, my penis could hear a bird, you know, it's 70 yards away. Like, what is that, a nightingale? I mean, my penis was erect for whatever. It was basically a watchdog, you know, and my penis had a big plan every time. But now my penis, dude, there could be a cart full of, fresh cooter could spill over next to the bed. And I don't even know if my penis would get up and be interested. So some of it could be you're just not getting the same feeling in your penis as you get older. I know that that's an issue for a lot of men, so don't feel too bad about that. But I think one thing you can do is tell girls what you want, I think you can tell girls what you want. Because if you're just chasing that special blowjob, man, you might never get that. That's, you don't, and the times were different. Who knows what you were doing back then? You may have been poorer. I mean, blowjobs always feel better when you're poor. So I think, you might be chasing like an invisible dragon. That's what you might be chasing, So you might just want to tell a girl that you like or that you love, that you fall in love with, what you like and what feels really good, and kind of coach her, because I think women are open to that. Don't be mean, don't be violent, don't get all Russian on her, but just be, helpful and concerning, But some girls are better at it than others, man. I had a girl one time gave the softest blowjobs ever. Too soft. I mean, like she just had a bunch of downy dryer sheets in her mouth. She barely even would touch my penis with her mouth, like she was a mime. Like she was just a mime just sucking cocks, and I didn't like that, man. It's like, it's not Jenga. Like you can, put a little pressure on it. But I let her go, and sometimes I wish I hadn't. She was a great girl. She just gave those, just the way too soft blowjobs. Like a baby was sleeping right next to my dick. Like that. And I didn't like that very much, So yeah, I think the best thing to do is to find a girl that you like and tell her what you really enjoy. I think that could help. Outside of that, you can keep hunting, bro. There's a lot of good girls out there that are giving them, Some of them are crazy, though. I mean, one girl pulled on my balls so hard. I mean, I swear to God, I'm going to have a kid with a long neck. First kid I have, going to have the damn longest neck you've ever seen. And still from that girl. Miranda was her name. And that was near Poughkeepsie. I don't know if anybody's ever been out there. I think near Poughkeepsie. Anyhow, I was going to take one more call, but you know what I'm going to do? I got a thank you call from one of you guys, and I just want to play that on my way out tonight to show some gratitude. And I want to thank you guys for listening and be a part of this past weekend. I'm going to try to do a special on, we've had a lot of guys calling in talking about manhood and what that means. And I know I've been saying I'll get to it, and I will. It's just been hectic. Just got a lot going on, and I'm feeling blessed and fortunate and better this week, even better than I was last week. So I appreciate your support. And on the way out, let's listen to this call. We got a thank you, and this is from Chris in Groveland. Some of you guys just call and leave thank yous, and I never play them, and I hope this doesn't offend Chris, but I appreciate it. I really do. So you guys be well. Take care of yourselves. And after this, I'm just going to close out. We got a good week ahead of us, I think. Let's believe that. And if you're having trouble, hit the hotline, man, and I'll try to help out as much as I can. All right, man, you guys be swell. All right, and this is a thank you from Chris in Groveland. We're going to check that out now. You guys have a good week, man. Be good to yourselves. And you know why, dude, because you probably deserve it, huh? I'm going to try my best, man, and I'm going to... and pray for me about that masturbation, bro. I'm trying to lay off that masty. and stay confident and stay steadfast and keep my feelings tight inside myself. Tight. Here we go.
Yo, what's up, Theo? My name is Chris, and a friend turned me on to you about a month and a half ago. And I know it sounds crazy, man, but your sense of humor speaks to me. And I was like dying of thirst for a comedian or somebody, a podcast, a personality, something I can really relate to. And I know this sounds corny as hell, bro, but
it's all right, bro. It's okay to sound corny, man. You know, fuck, you don't think I feel corny a lot of times saying all the shit I say, bro? But you know, I appreciate you calling, dude. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts, man. Onward.
You're really refreshing. You've kind of inspired me to start writing. We have similar personalities and similar sense of humors. And I just want to say, man, I really appreciate what you're doing. And keep up the good work, man. I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you were giving advice to somebody about how try to find happiness throughout outside of your work. And you mentioned something about doing stand-up comedy, that sometimes 2 days a week you don't feel like you're on the right path. And I just want to continue to encourage you and let you know, man, you are on the right path. You're the best comedian I've heard in a long time, and I really appreciate you putting your thoughts out there and your honesty, man, because it's really refreshing and it helps out a lot of people more than you'll ever know. I appreciate it, Theo. Take it easy, bro.
Wow, man. Thank you, dude. I appreciate you, man. I just want to say you're welcome. You know, and I'm not playing that to get any, you know, self-joy. You know, but I wanted to play that for you guys just because I get some calls like that. People just saying thanks, you know, and wanting to share their gratitude. And I think that that's important. You know, I think it's important. There's sometimes when I don't, you know, I want to do something and I just don't do it because I feel weird or embarrassed or I feel like I'm going to be ashamed. You know, something that's good. Sometimes that's good things, you know, or just telling somebody thank you or just sharing some how I feel, you know. So I appreciate that, Chris, man. I hope I didn't put you on the spot too much. And you're welcome, dude. And you know, we're trying. And I'd hate to be the man who ever first had that, you know, because it was probably an actual diagnosis at some point, you know. I mean, that had to be sheer hell, you know. So thankfully, it's just for me, I know these days it's just a bit of an itch. But I'm coming to you live, well, currently live, but maybe not when you're hearing this. I'm coming to you live on Memorial Day. I want to wish everybody a happy Memorial Day. If anybody has served or has a family member that has served, thank you. Thank you for my freedom. My job as a comedian is freedom of speech. So that is, my job is directly affected by the sacrifices made by those who have defended our freedom and have served our country. I'm a big supporter of the military as much as I can be. I actually almost thought for a little while that only people who have served in the military should be able to vote, or that their vote should count for more. That was just a thought that I had at some point that just kind of popped into my head. But happy Memorial Day to everybody. I am here in Tampa. I'm coming to you from Tampa. And before we get into it, I'm going to let you know some dates really quick. Just so you know, I have shows in Pittsburgh next weekend. Then I'm at Calusa Casino near Chico, California. Then I'm in New York City, Nashville, Stark County, Illinois, San Diego, and Las Vegas, all by the end of July. And you can check out those dates at theovon.com/tour, TOUR. But I'm happy to be here in Tampa, man. Thank you guys for joining me today, and happy Memorial Day, or whatever day you're listening. Making sure this is on. Whatever day you're listening to this show. It's been an interesting week. I spent some time with some fans and friends of the show that came out. Took a couple of young fellas to Chili's yesterday for dinner. I thought that they were, you know, lovers, actually. Some younger gentlemen, nice skin and, you know, lean arms and just supple looking guys, but nice, you know. And one of them had, you know, kind of fancy hairdos, and I thought that they maybe were lovers, but they're just cousins. So we had a nice time and had some salmon and enjoyed each other's company there at the Chili's. chain restaurant here outside of Tampa, down here in Florida, and this is Florida, and you know that, you're familiar with that. What else? A nice fellow named Ned, which I didn't know was a name still. It's like Ed, but with N, you know. Took me to the weight gym. We went to the Crunches Fitness, you know, and we had a nice time. Still can't really move my neck very well, so I'm a little necked up. But Ned got that neck workout on point, dude. And we had a nice time. And those are people that I met at the shows. Here at a Holiday Inn Express, as you can see behind me, if you're watching on the YouTube, you can see the beautiful curtainage. I've moved a couple of lamps in the room so that I'm getting enough light. So this is going to be what it's going to be today, guys. It's tough when I'm out here on the road. It's midnight. I got me some coffee. I'm flying back to Los Angeles in about 6.5 hours, but I'm happy to be here with you, and happy Memorial Day to you guys. I hope it's been a great weekend. Hope you're enjoying time with your loved ones or with yourself. You know, but I do hope that you're staying active. What else? I met a couple lesbians here in the pool, some adult lesbians. Down here in the swimming pool at the Holiday Inn Express out here off of Corporate Boulevard. And I didn't see one of them was hiding in the corner smoking weed, kind of ducked out under some trees kind of that were looming over the gate. So I thought it was just this one lady who was out there in the pool, and she kept asking me when I was coming to the pool again, like she wanted to kind of set up a little date. And then I heard her lady chime in the distance, you know, tougher lesbian, you know, more of a sturdier gal. And then I realized they're both pretty jacked, and they kind of invited me to spend time with them. You know, if I wanted to hang out. You know, and at 4:30 in the afternoon, I mean, and on Memorial Weekend, they're celebrating. You know, they're getting, letting their curtains hang, if you will. You know, letting the balls drop. You know, and they wanted me to do some maybe sexual activity or spend some time relaxing. You know, they were asking me what kind of television programs I liked, and if I wanted to, kind of spend time with them. And I almost, because one of them looked as if she'd served in the military. She had some military tattoos on her arm. She was pretty jacked, shaved head, black woman or African American, and then another white, older kind of granddaddy of a lady. And then I realized that if I were going to get in a threesome with these gals, that I would be the woman. That was the crazy part, man. I would be, or I would be the service animal, if you will. I'd be the C&I dog. I'd be probably the one, the pig that's getting roasted. I wouldn't be one of the spigots. I had a feeling that these girls were ready to put some, to take some of maybe some gender resentments they may have out on me. And I almost got involved with them just sheerly out of it being Memorial Day weekend and wanting to do whatever I could for America, or, kind of give back out of myself, out of my time, to be of service with these gals. But then I chose not to, because I just didn't want to be involved. And I was a little bit nervous, but we had a good time, man. Had a good time with those ladies. And I passed on the sexual opportunities. What else? I ate a lot of barbecue, man. I ate a lot of barbecue, dude. I went to the same barbecue place 5 times. And it's a lot of men in there eating barbecue, It kind of reminded me of like a Carl's Jr. I don't know if you've ever spent time in a Carl's Jr. It's a Hardee's, basically. I mean, it's a Hardee's in disguise. They're the same thing. Carl's Jr. is just a Hardee's in disguise. So if you see a Carl's Jr., know that it's really a Hardee's inside. They just have really packed it up differently. But at a Carl's Jr., a lot of lonely men eat at Carl's Jr., because they push these big burgers, these man meals, meals for a man. And you see a lot of lonely men eating in there. Because I used to go get a turkey sandwich over there a lot of times in the evening. And I've spent a lot of time being lonely. And so it's no it's no surprise that I ended up with my kind, with those types of people. And the men are in there eating slow, and they're sitting by themselves. And single men eat slow. Lonely men eat slow. Watch a lonely man eat. Take his time, no hurry. Married man, they eat. They eat fast because they got to get back to business, because they got a lot to do and people holding them accountable before they die. So they got to eat fast. But a single man eats slow. They eat slow. And at the Carl's Jr., I'd always find myself sitting in there, and I'd look around, and it's all just lonely dudes in there eating. So go in there. Go to a Carl's Jr. You'll see. And it kind of made me nervous, because you find yourself looking around, and then you're locking eyes with another fella, and you're trying to eat, and you got your mouth open. And it made me feel it kind of brought some feelings up inside of my body. It made me feel a little bit, not gay, but it made me feel like something gay could occur, or something gay was lurking, a homoerotic activity. Because think about it, if you're eating something, okay, and go with me on this, because some of you guys are probably like, what is he talking about? If you're eating something, right? If you lock eyes with another man, it's nothing, right? But now open your mouth and then lock eyes with another man. It's different. If you have your mouth closed and you're looking at another man, that's one type of feeling. You have your mouth open and you're locking eyes with another man, there's a different type of feeling there. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying that it riles up kind of some more homoerotic thoughts. And that's what I would notice at Carl's Jr. Because I was in there with these big sandwiches, having to get your mouth open big, and then you're looking around, because that's nature, being natural, and you'll lock eyes with another lonely man, and you'd have a flare-up of something, just a spark of some light eroticism, I felt like at times. And not that I was going to act on anything like that, but it just became an element in the air. That there was some, that something could occur. And this is one of the reasons why I think Quiznos went out of business. Quiznos, good sandwiches. Remember? Black olives, maybe some cooked ham. They got the lettuce on there, and sometimes they cook it, and then they changed to not cook it, and then they went back to cooking it. But one of the reasons I think Quiznos went out of business was because that toasted bread, okay, you get that toasted bread, you can't eat that easily. You got to open your mouth, you got to go wide on that toasted bread. And as a man, when you open that mouth and you're in there and you're looking around and seeing other men, I think it subconsciously made a lot of men nervous, or it made them uncomfortable. If they were, extremely straight, hardcore heterosexuals, then it probably made them nervous. Here I am with my mouth open constantly, because you have to open your mouth to eat that cooked bread. That bread gets really hardy, crusty. That bread gets tight on the outside, tight. And you got to open your mouth. And I find that for me, there were times when it was just uncomfortable. Not that there was anything wrong with, somebody feeling gay or being gay or acting gay, But there were times when I just noticed it was unexpected, because sometimes I just wanted a sandwich. I didn't want to have to deal or feel anything that was homoerotic when I was just trying to have a meal. And that's something that I found was an issue with Quiznos, because it was more than a meal. It was stirring up feelings that sometimes you're okay with thinking about the feelings, but sometimes you don't want to do that at lunchtime. Same thing with eating yogurt. Yogurt, dude, can somebody get a grasp on this yogurt? Every time I open a yogurt, might just be me. Maybe I'm at a bad altitude, but it kind of skeets out a little. It busts out. Like it's busting just a light nut, or just a belch, like a little bit of it kind of shoots out onto the table or onto the floor or onto my arm or shirt. And it makes me feel sometimes uncomfortable, There's nothing wrong with that feeling, but it just makes me feel like there's more to it, And it just makes you wonder if these yogurts have that much feeling in them, then they need to relieve these yogurts at the dairy. They need to open them there once and then send them to me. Because I feel like a lot of these yogurts are showing up with feelings, and then the second I crack in, they bust out. And, I'm trying to get through the day. If I'm a straight man, I'm trying to get through the day and not deal with that, that dairy skeet, if you will. So those are some feelings that I have sometimes about what's going on with some of those food areas. And yeah, in Tampa, I went to the same place, barbecue. I went and watched a lot of softball. Man, that softball was exciting, dude. That softball was exciting, wasn't it? I mean, I watched LSU beat Florida State, and that was a great. They came back from behind, and UCLA, Ole Miss, just a lot of great games. That softball's exciting, man. But I'll say this: if you are a gay male and you're looking to meet straight men who are lonesome, go to Carl's Jr. Go to Carl's Jr. because there are men in there eating big sandwiches. They got to get that mouth open, and you lock eyes with them, and it can happen. And I remember being in Carl's Jr., and they had some of these guys, I think this is kind of like a gay pickup move. They'll watch your chew cycle. They'll see how you're chewing, and they'll get on the same chew cycle as you. And if they see you chewing a certain way, they start chewing a certain way, and that's like a code, Kind of like how at the airport that governor or whatever from Minnesota was doing the foot tap, the under the table or what, at the urinal. It's like that. If a man does your chew cycle, doing the same chews as you on food, that means that he's looking to be, sentimental, or he's looking to feel fancy, So just be cognizant that that's going on. There's nothing wrong with it if that's what you want. But that synchronized chewing that's a pickup move, And sometimes they got fellas out there that will want to do, different things with your wiener games or something, or just lay there and maybe hold you or anything. But it can happen. It can happen at Carl's Jr. So just want to let you guys know that. But I was at Side Splitters Comedy in Tampa, and I'm so excited. I'm going to Pittsburgh next weekend. Years ago, I got a blowjob over there in Pittsburgh behind a Giant Eagle grocer. First time I went there many years ago, and I got pink eye from that. And Giant Eagle, that's just a Kroger. That's a Kroger in disguise. So I don't know if you guys knew that or not. But happy Memorial Day. I want to wish everybody that happy Memorial Day. It's a big day, man. Memorial Day, just in memory of all the people that have given their lives for our country. That's what it's about. Millions of men and women that have given their lives. In 1971, it started up as a officially recognized holiday. And I want to say I think that it's lost meaning to a lot of Americans. And I noticed it myself. Last year, I was fortunate enough to happen upon a Memorial Day parade. I didn't plan on going, but I ended up seeing one. And that really hit me in the heart. And if you don't do something like that, or go to a graveyard where all the flags are up, I did that. I can't remember if I did that on the 4th of July last year or if it was Memorial Day, but I went on one of those days. And really, your heart just fills up with the realities of sacrifice that have come into play over time to make America what it is, Because I feel like we've gotten comfortable, man. And a lot of people just think it's a holiday now. It's just a day off. In my time growing up, there was, there was Desert Storm. There was some more. America seemed like it was more of a thing. The red, white, and blue, the pride. There seemed like to be more of that. And this is just my view, But there just seemed to be more of that. There seemed to be more of having American flags outside. It wasn't weird. And now it seems to me like America's become like a United Nations meeting first, and then America second. It's like now you'll have the national anthem, but it's not even about the national anthem anymore. It's about somebody doesn't want to stand for it. And I'm not talking about the NFL. I'm talking about just like in a regular classroom, or they want to outlaw it, or I don't know. It's almost become this international hub. That's what America's become. Kind of like a place where other people just stop in to make money. It doesn't seem sometimes like it has the same effect, the same red, white, and beautiful notion, if you will, that it had back in the day, And I think some of that's because of comfort. It's been a long time since we've had a real serious war that we have all firsthand seen the effects of loss and the real effects of war. Like a lot of other countries see more often. We've been very fortunate. I think I don't even know how long it's been since we've had one on American soil. It could be the Civil War, but I think there were some wars after that, maybe. But we don't see that. We don't see firsthand the effects of it. It hasn't been since, World Wars I and II where we've lost vast amounts of humans. So it's not like there's that constant reminder, a huge reminder. And we've gotten comfortable. I think a lot of us in America have gotten comfortable. We just see Memorial Day now as just like a barbecue, a day off. People forget what it's about. And sometimes I just notice that that's the thing across America now. It's just we've lost a sense of American pride, it feels like sometimes. And maybe that's also I just live in Los Angeles. That is this, this growing pot of, like acting as if they're not even a part of America. But once something serious happens, once there's a serious war or something like that puts everybody's feelings back in a perspective, I think you're going to see a lot more people getting back on the American bus, just a lot more people realizing that it's not just about, all these luxuries and comforts that we have, that there's a lot of that we've been very fortunate. We've had a lot of sacrifice that's occurred. And I'm not saying I've seen that in my lifetime, really. But it did seem like when I was young that there was more of that. And, I don't want there to be a war for us to get back to that. But it makes me wonder sometimes, like if in the universe, there's always a high and a low. There's always a yin and a yang. And it makes me worry sometimes that if we get too comfortable and we don't have some humility and we don't have some pride, that something is going to happen in the world to correct that. So that makes me a little bit nervous, but also, I'd love to have something that bonded us together. I don't want to wish a tidal wave on half of America, but I'd love there to be something that, just makes us feel some pride again. And maybe that's just something I need to work on within myself. Over the years, I've had the honor and the privilege of going to do some tours overseas, and I say tours lightly, overseas for the military. I think 5 times I've gotten to go abroad to different bases around the world, actually. Let me think. Spain, England, Singapore, a bunch of different Portugal, the Azores, we're somewhere in the I don't even know, Central America. Fucking I don't know, dude. I need a map. Damn, I'm a dumb American. But I had 2 great moments going overseas, and I'm gonna tell you about those right now, and then we'll get to some questions. I'm gonna tell you about those right now, and then we'll get to some questions. One of them was I was in Guantanamo Bay. I went to Guantanamo Bay, and I got to do stand-up. And I'd only been doing stand-up about 3 or 4 years. And I was excited. I was nervous. We flew out of Fort Lauderdale, out of a private airport, at like midnight. It was about a 2-hour plane ride, I think. And I just remember we came up on it looked like this huge diamond just glowing in the distance. And it was all dark because we had to fly around Cuba. There's this airspace deal where you can't fly directly over it. So we had to fly around Cuba, and then we just drop. Like there's these like flight tactics where you drop really fast. So it's just the way you come in and out of some of these bases, I guess. And next thing you know, we land, and we're on Guantanamo Bay, man. We're at Gitmo. And it was amazing. I mean, it was just amazing to see. They had, I think, around like 15 or 1,600 troops down there. They had a couple of golf courses, some beautiful beaches. They had about 9 women. I remember that. Very few women. They had this term, Gitmo Pretty. Gitmo Pretty was that once you were on Gitmo, if you were a woman, you just became beautiful out of sheer numbers. You know? It's like, and I remember the first night we got there, I saw some girls there. Wasn't super attracted to them. By the third night, I was like, holy shit, I will damn well marry Miss Rhonda right now. I know she's 55, but I will marry her. And it was amazing. It was just amazing how, you know, how hot these gals got. And I actually ended up getting a blowjob from a gal down there. Making love, actually. I'm sorry. Making love. Getting a blowjob with a crotch, you know, from an actual crotch of a woman. Down there in Guantanamo Bay, who had a grenade in the trunk of her car. And that's not a fictional term. That's not a sex move or something. She had an actual grenade in her car that she showed me in the trunk. And then we, you know, had some, you know, did some premarital sex. You know, even though we weren't even getting married, it was just meeting up. But I think it still classifies as that. And then another time, and I'm sorry if I have a cold tonight, guys. I just got a lot going on in the plumbing, in my face plumbing. Another time I was at this base called Camp Arif John, and that is in Kuwait. And that's a popular base where a lot of people heading into Iraq would fly there first and I guess get acclimated, or it was like a main hub to get in and out of there. And we were doing a lot of bases and small forward operating bases for the military around Iraq and in Iraq, and all these small little bases, and it was awesome. It was an amazing experience. Like, I'm amazed that the military lets us come and do that. I mean, we were riding in Blackhawks, and they had people with, you know, machine guns, and we're riding in these RAV4s, and you just got to see what the servicemen and women's lives were like, and also how diverse the military is. Like, you know, I grew up with this mindset of this G.I. Joe type of thing, you know, where everybody was white and then one guy was kind of beige. But the military is extremely diverse. And that was really cool to see. That was super cool, just to see it, man. Just to realize that, you know, how diverse it is. And we were at this base, Arif John, and there's this. We were in the gym. They had a nice fitness center. I mean, it was nice, man. I mean, this place was really, really nice. And we stayed there, I think, for like 3 or 4 nights. And we were in the gym lifting weights. And this alarm goes off, right? And I'd heard the alarm the day before. And at that point, it's an alarm where if something comes over the base, over one of the walls of the base, there's like a sensor, and an alarm goes off all over base just to let you know that something has flown into the base, like a projectile of sorts. This is what I was told, anyhow. And at that point, you just wait, because you don't know what it is. You don't know where it's going to land, right? And I remember somebody told me that had happened. We're in the cafeteria, and that happened. Well, the next time it happened, I was at the gym, and I hear it. And everybody who's lifting weights and everything, walking around, just stops. And there's this moment where I'm just waiting for something to land. Like, could have been a missile, some type of projectile, I don't know. Could have been they just busted a bird carrying a bunch of ecstasy pills. Could have been a bird. A falcon. You know, a nightingale or something carrying damn, cyanide or something. But there's something that came into the base, and you're standing there literally, and you lock eyes with people, and you don't know if this might be your last moment on Earth. I mean, you're just waiting to see if something lands. And that was unbelievable to me, man. It was one of the scariest moments I ever had. And it happened a few more times over the next, week or two that we were out there in these different bases. But there was just this moment where everybody stopped and stood, and it's like it's like the roulette wheel, and you're a number, and this bomb or projectile or whatever it is the ball. And you're just kind of waiting to see if it could be a rock or a Molotov cocktail that some insurgent just hummed over the fence into the base. It could be something as simple as that. And that's what they said happens a lot. But it could also be somebody fired a RPG into the base. Like, you just don't know. And that was just unbelievable to stand there and just like be waiting to see if your life was going to end or if something tragic was going to happen. It's pretty baffling. And the fact that these men and women just, do that constantly, and that's just one of the little things that they endure, those moments of uncertainty. Wow. It was pretty amazing. So I'm just going to have just a brief moment of silence right now for everyone that's suffered a loss of a family member, or just for the loss of any of our servicemen and women. Yeah, feeling fortunate today. I'm going to try to remind myself all day to feel fortunate. All right, guys, let's get into some calls, man. And actually, the hotline now, you can also text to it. I'm going to give you that number. And if you want any basic life suggestions, that's what I offer. All I can offer is my experience, if I can relate to something that you're going through. That number is 985-664-9503. You can text into that, or you can call into that. And I'm going to go into a couple of texts. We got some texts this week. Excuse me, let me get some coffee. We got some texts this week, and I'm going to crack into those right now. Here we go. Hey, Theo, it's your boy James from Maine. I have a situation with the lady I met recently. I met her on Tinder. Tinder in Maine must be very... I bet there's missing pets on there. I bet there's karma. You could probably find karma on Tinder in Maine. I bet it's few and far between. I bet everything's on there. I met her on Tinder, so naturally I figured she didn't expect anything too serious. 2 weeks after and he says, ate that ass, is the term that this James from Maine is using. She's still texting me every day, acting like we got a future. We got a future, so James seems a little urban up there from Maine. If you're ate that ass. Anyhow, in addition, she's super religious, and I've never been to church. Okay. Well, you haven't been to church, but if you've eaten the ass of somebody who's super religious, dude, that's the devil. That's the devil's empanada right there, brother. So I don't know. You may need to go to church now. I've never been to church. I feel bad for the poor girl. She's a sweetheart, and I'm a dirty dog. I want to end it because 1, I'm not that into her, and 2, I'll probably end up breaking her heart. Any advice on how to end things before they get too serious, bruh? Stay funky, bruh. James. And then he actually misspelled James the second time. So that's Maine for you, dude. A lot of weed up there, a lot of hidden weed, When you misspell James, that's... But if you're eating church ass, James, that's a serious move, man. You are jousting with that Narnia hole, and you're being wild. That's real stuff right there you're doing, and she's probably, and I'm assuming you're doing that because she doesn't want to do sex, because she's probably saving herself for marriage or for, someone who's not trying to be a dirty dog. So you should probably, it sounds like you want to let her go. Are you just looking, for affirmation from me? I guess I'm a little bit confused, I would probably text her and let her know. You're snacking on the dark arts, brother, That's that booty communion that you're getting into, and that's serious. So I'd be a man, I'd text her. I'd just say, hey, this isn't for me. I got the devil in me. Put her on a level that she can understand, and that's going to make her feel, if you just say, I'm not into you, that kind of can hurt her feelings. She'll wonder why. But if you say, I got the devil in me, that I got Lucifer living just right up under my skin, then she might know then that, okay, well, he's not the guy for me. It lets her make a little bit of the choice, you know? So that could maybe make her feel a little bit better. Or just tell her that you want to be single, because that's also what it kind of sounds like. And I'll notice this, man, when I tell somebody the truth, I hear that truth as well. Whereas if I just ring it around and just BS and all this, then you can live in that space for years. And I tell you that from experience, man. I mean, there were some girls I would text and string along for years. We're going to meet up? And then they would be like, when are we going to meet up? And nobody would ever follow through. It was just this empty universe of, you know, and maybe occasionally catch up. But it was just this empty universe of trying to hold on and not let go. And sometimes you just got to shoot them straight, because you'll feel better. And you'll also hear whatever you say. If you say, I want to be single right now, and you let someone know that, and you'll feel it. If you're texting them the truth, you'll not want to hit send. It's almost bizarre sometimes. But if you do, then you're going to hear that as well, and that'll resonate in you. And then you won't feel like such a dirty dog if you'll start to come to women in the beginning, before you're, you know, chewing on their buttocks or, you know, being wild like that, because animals do that. You know, my buddy got 3 or 4 dogs, and they're always chewing on each other's butts and, you know, being erotic and stuff with their noses in each other's butts. So you're going to be able to let her know straight up, and then you'll, in the future, when you meet a girl, you'll just be able to say, yeah, I'm enjoying being single right now, and it'll probably just put you in a better place. So I would just do that, man. I'd shoot her straight, bud. That is it. All right, we got another one. What's up, Theo? It's Jason from Mission Viejo. I'm 40 and going to college for the first time. I was married young out of high school and never went to college. Well, that's okay, bruh, you know. But luckily landed great paying jobs. Eventually divorced after 6 years. I worked the next 10 years in the marijuana industry, making more great money until I was raided and lost everything. I guess it's still an industry if you could get raided. You know, it sounds like an illegal industry, but still an industry. And it's just illegal by the law. You know, at these points, I think marijuana certainly has medicinal values for sure. Making more great money until I was raided. I did 60 days jail time. Damn, dude. That's awesome. I mean, it's exciting. That was 5 years ago, and I realized it's time to go back to school. Yeah, it sounds like if you've had 5 years since then, it's been on your mind. Good. I'm glad you're getting back in. I have the drive and desire, but I'm a little nervous about being 40 and going to college. Any overall suggestions? Thanks, Theo. Jason. Bro, I mean, you could think of this one. I'd watch Old School right out of the gate, man. You watch Old School, that's going to put you at least in like a chill, fun mindset. You know, that'll make it probably cool to other people and shit, you know. You could also start a blog or an Instagram about it, you know. Real Life Old School. That could be your handle, Real Life Old School, and just share like what it's like to be like a 40-year-old dude in college, you know. I would say I went to 7 different colleges, 6 actually, and I remember we get a lot of older people that came back in, and I'm glad we're discussing this, Jason, because I consider going back to school. You know, I'd like to go back to school to take some writing classes. And I have over the years, but I'd like to really go full bore and enroll at some point here. Hopefully pretty soon, but we'll see. But I would say don't be like a know-it-all in class. We had like some, you know, I almost said senior citizen, but, you know, like some junior citizens, I guess 40. We had some junior citizens that came in that, you know, were like know-it-alls, you know. I wouldn't do that. You know, I mean, I'd do shit to stay chill, bruh. You know, I'd talk to hot chicks. Call someone a bitch, bruh, if you have to. You know, throw up a gang sign if you have to. Rep a set, you know, even if it's bullshit. People don't know that. You know, I'm assuming that it's community college, so there'll be people there that are definitely worse off than you, bro. You know, probably people that just got out of prison. You know, I got a buddy who went to community college. He's a physical therapist now. He can't even read. He cannot read, dude. Like, I don't even email him, you know? I calls only. And he's working in Ohio, making decent money. So you just got to get through this. Whatever the degree you're trying to do, you got to get through it. Also, don't come in with like a shitty looking backpack. That was one thing. Like, if you were like a junior citizen, then people that were that age and stuff, always you could tell because their backpack was like all, like some lady had all her shit in like a briefcase or something. Like, lady, you know, like half the people here are trying to be mechanics. Like it's you know, it's junior college. Like, get, you know, community college. So don't do that. Don't do other shit that old people like are adults, man. I say old people, look, bro, you're 3 years older than me. So I'm not judging. I'm just using terminology. So I get a dope backpack or one that's at least kind of hip, you know. What else, dude? Just eat like at lunch sometimes, but also you can bring your food sometimes. But don't be that older person that like brings mad like a fucking crock pot and shit into class and like butter and all their bread and shit in class. Like, chill the fuck out. Like, old people always want to show their experience when they get into class. Like, just chill, you know. I'd see what other people are doing before you make a lot of moves so you can kind of see where you can fit in. Also, you can tell the kids you used to sell weed, especially if this is in California. That's something that, you know, it's normal in California to say that. You know, if this were in, you know, if this were in like East Greenwich, Connecticut, then it might not be the coolest thing to say. People might think you're a criminal. But you could tell these kids you're a criminal. Tell them you did time. You know, that carries a lot of weight at community college. Because some of the kids at community college will be straight up fucking Muppet ass lurkers, bro. You know, straight up freaking chaunches, dude. Straight up dude, you know, dudes that would eat their own ball skin probably if they could. So, you know, you just want to be chill. You want to fit in. You're going to have pettios there. You're going to have strugglers. But I'd rep a gang if you have to. Rep a set, you know, that no one's ever heard of. Wear a bandana, brother. Wear a bandana. Take it easy. Don't try too hard. Get in where you fit in. That's what I would do. Because that's funny. I get nervous about it too. But the number one thing I get nervous about is having a shitty backpack. Or just having one that's like way out of touch, you know? Because you don't want to you just want to make it easier on yourself. Like, you don't want people talking shit to you and about you, you know? About you is kind of fine because you won't know. But to you, like, you know, yo, bro, where'd you get that fucking satchel, bro? You know? Yo, dog, you got a Conestoga wagon with that satchel? You don't want all that shit, man. You want to be able to feel your joy and let your joy out of your body and enjoy yourself. But cool, man. I'd love for you to let us know how it's going. Call back in a few weeks or after you start. And if you could send in that bandana pic, bro, I'd love to see you repping a set at community college, man. It'd be a great follow-up because I'm curious as well. So if you could do that for me, Jason from Mission Viejo, I would appreciate it, man. And good luck. Good luck to you, dude. It's going to be exciting. I mean, look, you're going to be able to meet people. Probably going to have lovely ladies to look at every day, or lovely men if you like men's. And there's going to be some joy there. So I hope you find some of that, man. Good luck. All right, we got one call that came in. I'm going to hit this call. Now, here's one thing I'm going to say. We've got a lot of great calls that have come in. I'm not making this episode too intense today because it's Memorial Day, man. This day isn't even about me. This day is about America. So, but in typical America fashion, Memorial Day is a day, you know, there's a lot of car sales, auto sales, right? And somehow on the hotline number, which again I'll give to you, it's 985-664-9503. And I want some calls. Anybody that's ever, if somebody out there is missing an appendage, I've always kind of wondered what some of that life is like, and I'd love to hear more about that. So if somebody out there is missing an appendage and wants to, you know, call in about that and let us know if it is really bad or if it's not that bad, and some of the, you know, the if you can find humor in it, and I'm not trying to make fun of it, but if you can find humor in it, in missing an appendage, if you've lost an appendage, I'd love to know about that, you know, or lost an eye, because that's wild, I think. But we have one more right here. And this is just America, dude. Somebody got the number on accident somehow and called from a auto dealership, dude. Listen to this shit. This is one of the messages that I got, bro. And this is just so fitting of America right here.
Good afternoon. This message is for Theo Vaughn. My name is Randy Brown, and I'm with the Internet Sales Department at Ray Ford in Bossier City, Louisiana. I was calling in regard to a recent internet search for the 2017 Mustang.
He's calling in regard to a search for a 2017 Mustang. First of all, dude, I've had a car for 3 years. Have certainly not searched for a Mustang. I could have been a horse. Could have been looking up horses, but there's no way I looked for an automobile. So that's wild, dude. But Randy, listen to this. Listen to this fucking Muppet. Here we go. Hitting the hotline, dude. About this. Onward.
I want to let you know we have several Mustang models available in stock here at Ray Ford at our dealership here at 2851 Benton Road in Bossier City.
Oh, that's awesome, Randy. That's only about 1,800 miles from me. I'll scoot right over, bruh.
And if you have any questions regarding any of them, I can answer them for you. Also, if you'd like to schedule a time to come by and test drive the Mustang with our Internet Sales Manager, Miss Karen, or with any member of the sales team that you may...
Miss Karen? Your internet... I mean, you almost have to love it. It's so Louisiana. Your internet sales manager is Miss Karen. Dude, throw in a last name, bro. Tempt me a little. That's what I'm just saying. Like, Randy Brown, dude, I don't hate you, but you're infringing on my privacy, bro. You know? I don't want a Mustang. I don't want a 2017 Mustang. I don't want to fly to Bossier City to get one, bro.
They're perfect for using. I can assist you with setting up a time to do so that's convenient for your schedule. So if you have any questions or if you'd like to schedule a time for a test drive, please feel free to call me at 318-686-7300, and I'm at extension 160, and again, my name is Randy.
You're at extension 666 for me, brother, okay? I just don't need it. I appreciate the initiative, but damn, dude. We don't even know each other. And listen to, he must have heard the outgoing voicemail when he called, offering basic life suggestions. And Randy fucking Brown from Ray Ford and Bossier still hitting me up, wondering if I want to test drive a 2017 Mustang with Miss Karen. Miss Karen, dude, is that a kindergarten teacher? That sound like a lunch lady. Dude, come on, bro. You're not going to do good business like that. You sound like you are only have 7 pints of blood in your body, dude. You sound like you have emphysema, but you're only 32 years old. Get it together. All right, Randy Brown? You know? I want you to call back at some point, Randy. If you ever hear this, I want you to call back, and I want you to entice me to buy a fucking Ford or whatever it is from damn Ray Ford. Yeah, it's a Ford. Unless that's the guy's name. It's Ray Ford. Ford Mustang. I want you to call back and put some fucking nuts on it, dude. Not this bullshit. If you want to come and the internet sales team and Miss Karen. Dude, come on, man. My God, brother. But that's America, man. And that's part of, honestly, what Memorial Day has come to. You know? If that dude wants to say we're having a Memorial Day sale, salute the fucking troops, bro. I want to hear a little bit of this shit in the background, dude. Don't just call with your bullshit, you know? I'm not... Anyway. So, yeah, so that's a call we got on the hotline, man. But I just wanted to kind of...